Welcome race fans to Pit Stop TV. We are, of course, live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch today. Emerson Ardon and Chris Nunn with me in the booth. I'm Midget Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the International Online Racing League Indianapolis 500 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We join you today from the mecca of American open wheel racing, the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana. Constructed in 1909, no name pairs with the idea of racing in America quite like Indianapolis. It's only fitting that we visit this historic cauldron of speed on such a fitting day, the Sunday before Memorial Day. IndyCar has come here for over 100 years to pit man and machine versus a yard of bricks, and today we will follow suit with the IORL Indianapolis 500. So, Emerson and Chris, as we resume coverage of the IORL IndyCar action, who can tame the yard of bricks today? We're set to find out over the course of 200 laps and 500 miles of racing.
Yes, this track is a legacy it has, as you alluded to, in American motorsports. It's also just iconic in its own that it's nearly a rectangular shape. The four corners all about equal degrees in each corner. The long straightaways, the short chute between first and second and third and fourth corners on this track. It's going to be a phenomenal race today, and these drivers, they're going to be driving on a slightly different oval than what many oval racers would be used to.
I'm personally excited to be here. It's my first foray here at the Indianapolis 500 here in the IORL. I see a lot of close speeds. I think we're going to see a lot of very close racing. As I was looking through the qualifying times, speeds were very, very close to each other. You had probably 4, 8, 9, 10 drivers in the 230 mile an hour range. So I believe once things get started, depending on how long green flag laps run, I think we're going to see one heck of a race and a close race. I'm going to predict a photo finish today.
I think that's a fair prediction there, Chris, and it is your first time actually on Pit Stop TV as well, so welcome into the booth. And we've had Emerson a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, so as we settle into our IORL booth here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's been a while since we've had IORL action on the channel. I think since last year's Pocono 500 through the summer. So it's been quite a minute since we've had IORL here on Pit Stop TV, but we're glad to be back with this league and covering the racing action today as we go to the Indianapolis 500 again. These guys usually race on Wednesday at nights, racing today on the Sunday before Memorial Day. Normally, we'd be getting ready to go into the second part of really the biggest day in racing. You usually have F1 at Monaco start the morning off, and then you go to Indianapolis for the Indianapolis 500, followed up by the Coca-Cola 600 for NASCAR. That's completely changed today. The only thing that is still the same is the Coke 600 later on this afternoon, this evening, but we can at least virtually have our own Indianapolis 500. And we thank the IORL for bringing us on to do this and have our own little bit of a double. We had the Coke 600 of our own actually last night with the Galaxy Cup Series, and now today the Indianapolis 500. So still working a bit of a double. We don't have the triple that you might have as a race fan with Monaco earlier in the morning, but regardless, Yard of Bricks, most iconic place I think in America as far as motorsport goes, even above Daytona. So Emerson, as we get ready to get racing, we do have a few drivers to talk to, and for that, I'll go ahead. I'll get, well, it's actually our pole sitter, Cole Freilich, and I'll let you go ahead and talk to him here in just one moment. There's actually I lost track of where Cole went, so please hold. Technical difficulties, we're no stranger to those, but we'll go ahead and try and get a hold of Cole. There we go. So a couple of technical difficulties. We don't have our usual staging booth, but we have Cole now, so we're just gonna go ahead and talk to you, Cole. First off, congratulations on your pole. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. A little bit of an early start in the morning. Kind of not used to racing at 11 o'clock for this league, but it's all good and fun.
Yeah, so you mentioned it being pretty early in the morning, and we're glad to be up though. 'Cause we usually would be getting ready for the real Indianapolis 500, like I mentioned, but today we have the IORL Indy 500, and I mean, you're sitting on pole. That's a pretty good place to be if you're going to be up this early.
Yeah, that pole lap was something special. I knew once I got the first lap down that it was just going to be a flyer, and every lap after that, it would just kept inching more and more. Somehow it beat Rambler's average, but that was just a heater for me.
Right. So, Cole, as you start today's race from the pole, how do you think that's going to help you in terms of setting up the entire 500-mile race here today?
Well, it definitely helps because track position is pretty key in this race. So definitely starting at the front is going to be good. And if I can just stay up front, I'll have the track position towards the end. And really, the game plan is to just survive, not put the car in the wall. But yeah, hopefully I can just survive all 500 miles of it.
Hey Cole, Chris Nunn up here in the booth. Just curious, as far as sitting on the pole for the Indianapolis 500, how are your nerves?
I was a little nervous earlier because I don't want to do what the US 596 did and wreck the whole field coming off of turn 4 on the start. But definitely a little bit of nerves, not too bad now. So just going to try to keep it cool, calm, and collected on the starter.
So, as you start from the pole, obviously the aero around your car will be a lot different than it will be in a pack. Can you kind of explain to the race fans how aero will change from being up front in a draft or a pack than it is being in traffic?
Oh, definitely. There's a significant downforce shortage in this car, especially this setup we're running. So basically, when you're in clean air, it's going to give enough downforce to the car you can just be on a rail basically around the racetrack, and then once you start to get in that dirty area, it really starts to push, and you really got to let out of it. But I think once we get to the run here, I think tires will become more of a factor than the aero itself.
Right on, definitely. So as you alluded to tires, what do you think is going to benefit tires more here as the race gets on? Do you think caution laps will help out tires most, or I guess they would, but would you much prefer caution laps or being out front to conserve tires?
Definitely being out front, just leading the Indy 500. That's always special. But really, I think you got to pace yourself for this race because if you go too hard, too fast, it's definitely going to wear out those tires. And if you just kind of ride behind with the guys and work together, I think you can definitely save some tires over the long run, and then just fight it out towards the end.
Being up front, you always have to be so weary of overtakes from behind. So what's going to be your strategy? Are you going to do the IndyCar defensive line down the straightaways as we normally see on TV, or do you think you're going to just be able to maximize arc into the corners to kind of gap? What is your plan when it comes to defending your pole position here?
The plan's really just work with the guys up front, try to stay in front of everybody. If we can gap the rest of the field, that'd be awesome. I know I got my teammate Spencer Madden up here, and then I know my buddy Kyle Cuthbertson, who Racing Nation TV on YouTube. He's starting all the way from 33rd, 32nd actually. So shotgun on the grid for him, pretty much. So yeah, I got a few friends in this race. Hopefully we can all work together at some point and try to gap them.
Now, being a rookie here at the Indianapolis 500, we talked about nerves earlier. Does that add on to the pressure? You being a rookie and trying to be a rookie winner here?
A little bit, but just being a rookie and winning the pole was kind of special to me. I've had a pretty stressful week, as I've told Andrew before, and so that was just really good to get a pole this week and really start off the double that I'm doing the right way, because I'm going to be running the Coke 600 later tonight in NIS, so that'll be fun.
All right, so are you going into today's race with a strategy in terms of fuel, or are you just kind of watching and reacting and pitting when you need to, or when you feel the car needs tires?
I did the Indy 500, the iRacing fixed Indy 500. I did that a few weeks back, and I'm kind of probably going to roll with the strategy I had through that race, just pit towards about every end of the cycle, so which is about 28 to 32 laps. So somewhere in that window is what I'm looking for, but maybe we'll catch some cautions. Maybe I can work an off strategy from everybody else and have enough fuel and tires at the end.
All right, well, that's all I have. I wish you the best of luck heading into turn number 1, as it will be hectic, and have a blast out there.
All right, thanks, Emerson.
And so that was pole sitter Cole Freilich. Rolling off from P1 is definitely going to feel good here in a little while. He mentions nerves, and definitely I think starting on pole is going to come with some nerves, and Gonna have to give yourself a little bit of a shot in the arm, because that is definitely, I think, going to weigh on your mind going off into one. But I have confidence in him, full confidence in him, that he'll start this thing off just right. We have a couple more drivers to talk to. First up, we're going to go ahead and grab Seth Streetel. One moment on that. And let's see, go get a hold of him. And Seth Streetel, do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, I talked to you before the race. It's Streetel, isn't it? I totally messed that up.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, Seth, be rolling off here in just a little while off the grid for 500 miles of racing from Indianapolis for the IORL. And we were just talking to Cole, the pole sitter. He's been talking about nerves all week long, and I'm sure it's got to be running high with everybody in the field.
Yeah, I'm starting in P25. It's going to be first couple. I'll be in the aero, definitely in the aero push. It's going to be trying to save my tires a little bit. That way I can get the runs on people. Hopefully I can work my way up towards the front at least.
You're faster in carb day. Having some good practice laps, having some good fast practice laps. How do you convert that over to today's race?
Oh, you just gotta stay consistent. You gotta, like I said, manage your tires, make sure you're keeping up. You don't want to overrun your tires, and then you're running. If we go 30 laps on green, you got to be able to manage that with your tires and stay consistent for each fuel run and tire run. So you just got to make sure you're running consistent laps and you can make positions up.
Absolutely. So you mentioned aero push, those first couple of laps. How is everything going to be? Of course, usually in open racing in Indianapolis, you're going to have some adjustments to make with the roll bar, the weight jacket, but you don't have that ability today, being a fixed setup race. So how are you going to adjust in the cockpit to try and make sure you can keep the throttle down, of course, as much as you can, because that's the key to being fast here in Indianapolis?
That is the key. My goal, like I said, is saving the tires. You don't have those adjustments. It's a fixed race, so you still need to manage the car to be able to run and keep the car good, and don't want to overrun your tires where you're running high in the corner, or you just got to stay clean as well.
Well, definitely. So the importance of keeping an Indy car clean, I think, is never higher than at a place like this, where you're going 230 miles off into the corners. I've run this thing a couple of times for the iRacing events, not in the IORL, but I know for sure once you hit that wall just a little bit, that might just be your day. How important is it to just manage how close you get to that fence and making sure you make the right moves at the right times?
Yeah, like you said, you do have to make the right moves at the right time. With aero push being in towards the in the middle of the pack, it's gonna be hard managing going side by side in the corners. If tires are worn, it's gonna be tough. What was the last part that you said of that question?
Shoot, I think I even forgot. Don't feel bad, because I was ready to actually ask you about your kart racing, because I see on here we got a kind of a doc about each driver, and it says you're a kart racer. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I race at the Ohio Valley Karting Association in Camden, Ohio. This will be my third season doing that. Before I got into karting, I was just, I run at a place called Full Throttle in Cincinnati, and I ran at a 206 at Newcastle back in the fall of 2017. I was pretty serious about it. I loved it, and then my plans this year, I'm gonna run OVKA and senior white pipe, and then probably run a couple races over in Newcastle with maybe X30 and KA, and probably run Yamaha as well. But I'm really looking forward to the season. Got a new chassis, new motor, so yeah. I love karting. It's so much fun. It's just a great atmosphere with people.
So how does that help you going to an IndyCar, be it virtually? How does your kart racing experience help you out today?
I think it definitely, with steering, you don't have a full motion simulator. I don't have one, but it's not really the same, but still steering wise, and how the tires, for karting, you can still have the same somewhat steering input, if that makes sense. You can definitely feel, adjustments with the wheel and everything like that.
Absolutely. So as we gear up for 500 miles of racing, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot real quick. Where do you think you're going to finish?
Hopefully not worse than 25th. I mean, I think, you know, I can definitely work my way up to the top 10, hopefully.
All right. We'll be looking forward to it then, Seth. If you don't get a top 10, we're going to be after you here after the race. But best of luck to you, Seth. Hopefully we're talking to you after the race.
I appreciate it.
And so that was Seth Stridle. I'm going to turn it back over to Emerson Ardon then as we go ahead and get a very familiar name in Rick Raven down here to talk to. This guy dominates the SRCA IndyCar division. So for that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Emerson.
Hey, Rick, you got a copy? Rick, do you got us?
Looks like Rick might have stepped away. So we'll come back to Rick Ravon then. In the meantime, we have another driver that we got to talk to, and that is going to be, if I can track him back down, I knew where he was just a little while ago. He's moved. There we go. So this will be a driver that we actually don't know a whole lot about, so hopefully we can talk to him a bit here. Franklin Ash, do you have a copy?
I do. Can you hear me?
We can. So Franklin, you're a new name to us at least. We're familiar with the other drivers we've talked to so far, at least to a point, Seth, Rick, and Cole, but Franklin Ash, it's a new name to me. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, this is my first attempt at the IORL Indy 500. Started a race with these guys this season. Haven't missed a race yet. And yeah, I've actually never made an Indy 500 race before, or run one rather. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for this. This will be the longest oval race I've run yet.
Well, we had a pretty long oval race last night in a 600 at Charlotte, but today is still going to test endurance for you guys, test attrition. We just talked to a kart racer in Seth Stridle. Now we got another kart racer, I guess, and I think kart racing and IndyCar racing kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, absolutely. There's quite a few IndyCar racers in real life that started in karts, be it road course or oval. I run dirt ovals, so it doesn't really transition 100% like it would on pavement, but it is what it is. The racecraft carries over, though.
Absolutely. So you're getting ready to roll off on the grid 31st, and I could be mistaken, but I don't think you were actually guaranteed a starting spot. I think with a couple of withdrawals here late in the week, you kind of were given that 31st starting spot. So tell us about that experience coming up through qualifying and not being totally sure if you were going to make the race or not.
Well, we had 3 attempts at qualifying, and my initial attempt would have locked me in the field around 29th, but I was pretty early in the runs. I thought I was going to get knocked out, so I went out a second time and ended up like 34th or something like that. And then my third attempt, it's just the track never cooled back off. It got hot, and I ended up qualifying 34th when all was said and done, and 3 people dropped, so that's the only reason that I'm still in this race. So I'm grateful for that. I'm sorry they missed it, but I'm grateful.
Now, this being your rookie shot here at the Indy 500, you said you've never ran a race this length. What have you done to prepare to be here this long?
Well, I've run, this is the longest oval race. I've run road races like this, run the couple 6-hour endurance races solo.
Yeah, so you're used to this then?
Yeah, just not on an oval. And I will tell you, the walls coming out of 1 and 3 are probably my biggest enemy today.
Have you got into it a couple times during practice yet?
Only in a close draft, but I was just pushing the car and seeing what it felt like.
Now, obviously, drafting a lot different on these oval tracks than it is, on, the road courses and whatnot. Just take us through the difference in the cockpit. Obviously, other than turning right and left, what do you do differently to prepare for an oval rather than a road course?
Well, one thing with iRacing is I've noticed that the cars on an oval, it's more entry speed and exit speed, and on a road course, surprisingly, you could bomb the corner, go as fast as you can on entry, and you still have a good exit, or you could take it slow and still have a good exit. But oval, it's so precise, it's a hassle sometimes.
No, I can imagine so. This being your rookie run in the Indianapolis 500, you're starting 31st. What would it mean to you personally to pick up the win today?
Well, it would it would mean a lot, honestly, because I've actually never won a league race in the couple leagues I've been in. This FTF, the Reddit league that they run every Sunday. Um, I've never been able to win a league race, so I mean that alone would be awesome. But the Indy 500 in this league, that would just blow my mind.
All right, that's all I got. Thank you very much for talking to me. This has been Chris and I in the booth. Guys, got any other questions for him?
I think that'll do it. Franklin, just before we let you go, who do you have to shout out as you get ready to roll off 31st today?
I want to give a shout out to my teammate in this race, Bruno Carnerillo. I probably butchered the last name. I've never really learned it. I've known him for years. And my buddies, Ayrton and Josh, I know they're watching the broadcast out in Utah right now. They were going to qualify for the race, but they're racing in real life today, so they won't be able to make it.
Well, we appreciate you again for your time. We'll be looking out for you in the race today, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. You guys have fun up there.
You too, and that's Franklin Ash rolling off 31st. Go ahead and see if we can track down Rick Ray Vaughn one more time. For that, I'll go ahead and turn that back over to Emerson.
Rick, you got us?
Gotcha.
Sweet deal. You'll be rolling off, I believe it is P5 for you here today. What is your plan heading into turn number 1 tonight? Or today, my bad.
Well, since this awesome league is doing this with a 3-wide start, obviously it's different than anything I've ever done in sim racing. I've never done a 3-wide start at the Indy 500 or anywhere for that matter. So this is exciting. It's going to be like the real thing, and I'm an old school guy, so I love the way he did qualifying. The qualifying procedure was awesome. I'm just loving this IORL. But as far as the start of the race is concerned, you just got to you just got to get through turn 1 safely, obviously. Just not really push it. You can't pull any hero moves out there because, that could get you in trouble. And obviously you're going to piss off some drivers, and you're going to want some of these guys on your side. You're not going to want anybody to, to drive you rougher than they normally would because you kind of pissed them off. So you just finding the nearest comfortable slot to slide in and just go from there. And you got to get to the end of this thing to win it.
All right, so here on Pit Stop TV, we broadcast the SRCA races. We know how great you are over there. But the last one we ran was Pocono. Had an amazing showing there. How much from that series is going to translate over? Granted, they are the exact same car, just different leagues, different settings and all that. So what do you think you're going to be able to take from that series and bring it here?
Well, Cole Freilich, Scott Rambler, and was going to be John Poole, but John backed out of the race. As far as drivers are concerned, because I don't recognize any of these names, and I think that puts me at a little bit of a disadvantage too, because you don't have a mental book on the drivers. It's very important to know who you're racing against. Who you could race side by side with, and what you can get away with, and how they race and how they react, and everything else is very important. So as far as what I could take from the SRCA and bring over here, the only thing I could really take over there is the guys that I've raced with over there, and that's Rambler, Freilich, and Poole. But Poole isn't here, so it's down to Rambler and Freilich.
All right, so obviously it'll be quite the learning experience. But that being said, you have quite the hot rod right now, leading warm-up, I believe. Yep, you are. Just double checking that. Yep, leading warm-up. So you're starting P5. How quickly do you think you'll be able to move up to the front, maybe rough it up with Cole a little bit?
I'm not really interested in getting to the front quickly. I mean, if the option is there, and it's always a risk versus reward situation. You never want to, go all out from the first or second lap. But if the option is there, maybe I'll take it. Maybe I'll sit back and wait and conserve the tires and maybe save a little fuel. I'm not really sure. It depends on what the guys around me do. I'm going to react to what they do, but I don't really have any particular plan for the start of the race other than to get through it clean.
I think Spencer is telling you to get off the track right now. So I'll let you attend to that. But starting P5, it should be a fun one for you today. Jesus Christ. Fun one for you today. Wish you the best of luck there.
Well, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Hope we give the fans a good show. Go IORL, baby.
So that's the always energetic Rick Ray Vaughn, and we are actually encroaching on their drivers meeting time, so glad that Spencer was right on that to make sure he got down to pit lane for his driver meeting. And just want to thank those drivers once again for sharing their time with us and talking to us before we get going here today. Now, I think that gave us a lot of really good insight, guys, as to exactly how these guys are prepping and how they're feeling going into this 500-mile race. It's never easy to prep for anything this long, and they're certainly, I think, aware of that. As they get ready to go 230 miles off into turn 1, turn 3. That's pretty incredible. These cars go up to 230, almost 240 in the draft.
Now Rick mentioned a really good thing during his interview. He said he is in no hurry to get to the front, so that kind of tells me a little something about his strategy right there. He's just going to play it safe and probably, hit the go pedal later in the race. I think that's a good strategy.
Right, I definitely agree. Bide your time. This is a very, very long race. The session is 4 hours long, and usually these races, several hours. It's going to take a lot of mental capacity to be there at the end. And if you take it easy right off the bat, that should definitely help you out later in the run, especially mentally. Again, these guys, they don't undergo these same physical strains that the real life drivers do, but mentally, it might even take more of a strain to be lasting at the end and have a great run or a great shot at winning this thing.
So as we get ready to step away for just a moment before these guys roll off the grid, we are going to take a quick little break. We'll be right back to you with continuing live coverage of the IORL Indianapolis 500. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the start of the race. Welcome back to live continuing coverage of the IORL, we'll get that down, Indianapolis 500, of course, from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we just talked to 4 different drivers, 4 definitely, I think, similar but also very different interviews, and talking to those guys and different thoughts about how today's race is going to go, Emerson. As we are just over 30 seconds away from gridding up, let's go ahead and run down your starting grid. So we do actually have one of those. We have a 3-wide starting grid, actually, so it's a bit different from what you might usually see on iRacing, but in line with what you would usually see at Indianapolis today.
Right, definitely. It's going to be a blast tonight, as these guys, as a couple of them alluded to in interviews, we're starting off 3 wide, so let's get right to it. row number 1 will have Cole Freilich on the inside, Nick Gunfer in the middle. And oh no, those are rows. Let's try that again. Row number 1 will have Cole Freilich on the inside, Scott List Ramler in the middle, and Spencer Madden outside row number 1. Row 2 will have Nick Gunfer, Rick Ray Vaughn, and
Jeffrey McClintock.
Number 3 will have we'll have Gold, Ellis, and McClendon. Row 4 will have Buchanan, Trowbridge, and Keefe.
Looks like row number 5 on the inside, we'll see Roswell Harlow. In the middle of row number 5, we're going to see Kyle Riley in the Aero Electronics team. And outside of row number 5, we're going to see Scott Bellum. Row 6 on the inside, we'll see Corey Rexford. In the middle, we'll see Trevor Eggemeyer. And Trey Shuttlesworth will be on the outside of row number 6. And row number 7 on the inside, in the Monster Energy sponsored number 11, that'll be Joey Newsel. On the inside, that'll be Doug Denise. And Andrew, starting on the outside of row number 7, it's going to be Chris Garr.
To the inside of row number 8 will be Evan Stammer. To his outside in the middle of that row will of course then be Bruno Carneiro, I'm going to assume, from Ash Racing. That's about how you say that. Trey Patton to his outside, starting 24th. 25th rather, we just talked to him a moment ago, Seth Stridle. In the number 32 car, he rolls off on the inside of row number 9. The middle of row number 9, Andrew Cootie actually had to withdraw from today's race right before these guys got into the practice session. So unfortunately, we will not have Cootie in the field. We'll have a 32 car field. But Adam Samsel then will bump up to the middle of row number 9. That means Christian Erickson will go to the outside of row 9. We'll have Matt Chubb on the inside of row 10. Bobby Krug, the middle of row 10. That moves Franklin Ash up to 30th, actually, the outside of row number 10. And on the back row, we have Kyle Cuthbertson and Andrew Niebach rounding out your 32-car field. So as we get that out of your way, we go up to Cole Freilich, your pole sitter. Again, this is going to be something special. We have a 3-wide start, something you don't usually see on iRacing, and these guys, I think, are just the epitome of how to set up a good IndyCar race.
Right, definitely a 3-wide start here is going to bring back, you know, the memories we have of watching the Indy 500 on TV as well. I'm very thankful for IORL giving us the opportunity to kind of broadcast a sort of supplement, if you will, as we don't have the real thing happening today. It definitely going to be a blast rolling off into turn 1. We might even see some carnage. Let's hope not. Let's hope for a great race here. But yeah, Chris, on to you.
Yeah, you know, Andrew, I was going to ask you, when you were going through the lineup, you mentioned that Andrew Cootie had to withdraw. How devastating does that have to be to make the 500 and have to withdraw right before it starts?
Oh, incredibly devastating. I mean, you go and you put all this effort into all week long. You show up for qualifying. You go through the Fast 9. Granted, he wasn't in the Fast 9, but still, you go through qualifying, make your 3 attempts. Then you have Carb Day on Friday, and suddenly, right before the race, you just don't have a choice. Have to withdraw due to a technical failure, what have you. But we're coming out of turn 4, ready to go green flag racing. Cole Freilich bringing us to the green. We're already off and away. You see Cole Freilich and Scott List Rambler dancing around down the front straightaway. Green flag in the air. We're off and away for the IORL Indianapolis 500.
How about Cole making that start absolutely perfect? Clear out to the race lead. He singles up about the top 10 or so as they are getting sorted out as they run through turns 1 and 2. Further back, whoa, all the way to the inside. I guess that's possibly just him being defensive, as you see Rambler right on the gearbox side by side into turn number 3, nearly 3 wide for second.
Wow, Madden, Rambler, and Raven going 3 wide down out of turn number 3 into turn number 4 they go. Down the front straightaway, leading lap number 1 of the Indianapolis 500 today. It is going to be Cole Freilich.
Rambler was in behind on that start. Now Spencer Madden takes over that spot. He's rolling second place around the top side. And now Rick Ray Vaughn, as Rick Ray Vaughn shows his nose up underneath. He was looking for second place, falls back to third. Nick Gunther then in fourth place over Scott List Rambler, who started this thing off in second place. Already a single file lane just running around your top 10 thereabouts, maybe top 12, just a single file line of cars.
Right, didn't Rick Ray Vaughn say in his interview he wasn't going to be too aggressive, or not aggressive heading up front, but he already into the third position, quite of a start for him, and duking it out for second place with Spencer Madden side by side down the front straightaway. They go. Freilich looking to defend against Madden, leaving the inside open for Ray Vaughn, heading to turn number 1.
And they are side by side going into turn number 1 and 2. We've got Rick Ravon now going to the lead. He said he didn't want to be aggressive in the start of the race, but he has totally went back on that, and he is now your leader.
So Rick Ravon already up to the lead, and Cole Fralick is no stranger to Rick Ravon and how well he is in an IndyCar, how good he is in an IndyCar. But Cole Fralick going to take that lead back off into turn 3, lap number 3 of 200. These guys already dancing around at the draft and showing what they've got early.
And that's what makes this race so amazing. It's so much fun from a driver's perspective to just run around, be drafting all day. Overtakes are amazing down these long front straightaways and these tight corners, these 90-degree corners, as Rick Ravon goes straight back to the race lead using that slipstream. How about this top 11 breakaway here a little bit? This should help get us a cleaner or a clean start to the event.
Definitely the top 11 cars, they have pulled away from 12th place. We're keeping an eye on the intervals there on the right side of your ticker there. Cole Fralick still right there behind your leader, Rick Ravon. 11th place is 1 second back, then or 2 seconds back to 13th. So, Andrew, these top 11 cars, man, they are getting it right now.
Yeah, they definitely are. On board is Scottless Rambler out of turn 4. And these guys are just already setting a blistering pace. You mentioned it. Already going pretty fast. I see times in the low 41s, high 40s. So that is definitely getting it, as you said there, Chris. Definitely some pretty fast times out of the top 11. Go a little further back to about 12th place, Kyle Riley. Kind of a secondary group back here, and then he's got a bit of a gap a little ways further back, actually. A couple of cars back. Give a 4-second gap all the way back to Joey Newsel, who's about 4 seconds behind Scott Bellum. Not sure what happened there, but in the early going, about 14 cars off and away in a decently together group. Then you have this secondary, really second pack of cars racing 14th, 15th on back.
Right, I feel like we're going to be saying this for quite a while, but Rick Ravon back to the race lead, but Cole Fralick back to his inside down to front straightaway. They go, as you alluded to on lap time, Zach Buchanan has a 40.6. That is blistering around this circuit, and it's only going to get faster as the cars become lighter with fuel, and as it gets later into the day, it should definitely be some fast-paced times later on in this event. Rick Ravon going back to the inside on Cole Fralick. These two are just having a blast up here. They know each other.
Ravon now back to the inside as they move into turn number 3 and 4 and into the short chute. Rick Ravon had enough of sitting there in that second spot. He moved right back ahead. It is Ravon, Fralick, Gunther, Madden, and Rambler, your top 5.
A little further back, McClendon sits in 6th place, but Cole Fralick already back down to the bottom side, and you're going to see this all day long. They're going to trade off the lead multiple times, kind of like last night we saw with Hickson, Baugh, and Wineland, but today, a couple of Indy cars around Indianapolis as opposed to a couple of NASCAR stock cars around Charlotte. They're just going to keep trading that lead off, of course. Get up in behind the draft of somebody, and you're immediately just going to drive right up to them and probably have a run down to the bottom side. We'll see Ravon do it again. Yep, goes right back to the inside of Fralick, and right now these guys are in kind of just chill and Sunday drive mode. They're not really racing that hard. They're just trading the lead off each corner, be it turn 1 or turn 3, and you'll see Cole Fralick get a run back on Rick Ravon to the exact same thing into 1 this time.
Right, and I think there's a few reasons for that. One, it's just how long this race is. You literally have to bide your time and just kind of ride around and wait till the end of this race before you can make some serious moves. And you see down these straightaways, none of these guys are really defending very hard on one another. One, that I think that's again, back to how long we have in the race, and two, they just have such great respect for each other. Or at least they know each other at the very least, and they know that one another they're not going to run each other into the grass or the outside wall. So they're just having fun up here, as I believe that is Spencer Madden going to second place on Rick Ravon and trying to clear down the short chute into turn 3, but they go side by side through 4.
That's a good move as we look on the onboard camera here. Spencer Madden as Ravon moves now back to the outside. Ravon has that old school Rick Mears looking paint job there on that IndyCar as they roll down the front straightaway, stacked up 2 deep behind him down the front straightaway. It is Madden and McClendon there. Right behind them, it is Gunther and McClendon now side by side as they trade 5th and 6th.
So Scottless Rambler takes advantage of Madden trying to go on by Rick Ravon. Ravon had the run out of 4. Rambler went on by with Ravon. So put Spencer Madden back into 4th place. Then you have the battle for 5th back here. Gunther going to come out on top for now. McClendon back to 6th. Stephen Ellis now, actually, no, he'll take over 7th place as it's actually Thomas Gold who falls back into 8th place. So Thomas Gold headed in the wrong direction right now.
Yeah, but again, very early in the race, these guys, with that being said, the draft is, the effects of the draft are definitely going to be showcased here in becoming laps. As you see, the field's kind of spread out here, but as long as nobody's making like any too drastic moves or too dramatic moves, they're going to draft right back up to that pack, and they'll have a pack once again, and they'll have to test the limits of those tires as they continue to duke it out. But right now, the top 2, maybe 3 have broken away. Ray Vaughn and Freilich nose to tail as they head through turns 3 and on the way to turn 4.
Yeah, as long as you're staying close to the guy in front of you, you don't want to let everybody, get out to a big advantage. As we saw early on in the race, the top 11 or so, they broke away big time. And now we're starting to see the gaps stretch out a little bit throughout the top 10. You've got less than a second separating 1st through 4th, and then all the way back to 10th. Now you've got a 3-second gap. So you can kind of see who's running the blistering pace and who's kind of, laying back a little bit, as we got a battle for the lead between Ravon, Freilich, and Rambler going on here.
Yeah, Cole Freilich almost slapped that outside wall out of turn 2, so already the tire's starting to wear off a little bit, the grip's starting to go away, and of course when you get in behind somebody out of turns 2 and turns 4, you just naturally wash up to the wall. You'll see them do the same thing out of 1 and 3, but definitely I think out of 2 and 4 you got to be careful, because that's where you're starting to pick that throttle back up, and you got to be on it to be able to be fast down the long straightaways, the front and the back straightaways. So Cole Freilich got a little bit squirrely out of 2, got real close to that wall, and that allowed him to, that allowed Scott Rambler actually to catch back up to him, make some time on him, and he lost some time to Rick Ray Vaughn. So this top 4 actually splitting up. Spencer Madden a little ways behind that, about a half-second back of Rambler. So this top going is starting to split back up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, and we're seeing nothing of the unusual as Rick Ray Vaughn starts to open up, as that's what he does on the SRCA side of things. But here in IORL, Rick Ray Vaughn has about half a second advantage over Cole Freilich. Freilich looking like he's under attack from Scott Rambler. I hope this isn't alluding to his tires possibly being worn out, or maybe he's just backing off to maybe conserve some tires, because being out front, you do have the luxury of the clean air and all. You can plant the car into corners. That being said, planting the car into corners, carrying more speed, you are scrubbing that right front tire more. So hopefully his right front is hanging in there.
Currently on board with Scott McClendon as we look at the rear end of Mr. Gunther's machine there ahead of him. He's trying to work down to the inside, down the back straightaway. This is the battle for the 5th position. He'll move to the inside. He'll take it briefly as they head into the short chute, and he's got the spot. Good move there by Mr. McClendon.
So McClendon through to 5th, then breaking into the top 5. The next car ahead of him, though, about 1.4 seconds ahead. It's about a second and a half all the way up to Spencer Madden. So definitely a big gap as he starts to actually leave Nick Gunther. Nick Gunther heading in the wrong direction. Now, we mentioned you don't have adjustments in these cars, be it roll bars or weight jack or what have you. So it's tough to work with the cars. The track changes, the car changes, the tires go away. And already, oh, we've got one car in the fence hard. That was... See, not Zach Buchanan, that was Thomas Gold in the wall really hard out of turn number 2, and he's going slow down the back straightaway.
Yeah, I think it's just, one, it's a draft, the 2, the tires, like, so many things are compounding these drivers in hard into the wall, and is going for a wild ride in turn number 3. Caution on the speedway. Yeah, I was about to say that Freilich got close to that outside wall for turn 2, and upside down goes Thomas Gold. Wild ride.
And somehow he avoided being clipped by about 4 or 5 cars. You saw a couple of cars go underneath him as he was flipping down the turns. What a wild ride for Gold as we bring out the first caution. We're going to take a replay and see what happened, Andrew.
Yes, this is going all the way back to turns 1 and 2, so we'll see kind of what goes into him losing so much front grip to pound that outside wall. This is through turn 1, the exit thereof. You see those cars ahead of him are actually quite a ways ahead. You wouldn't think that would play into the aero push too bad, but it definitely does, and he clips that safer barrier, goes up on 2 wheels for a moment, and at this point, the steering is completely shot. We can actually go to a different shot here and see how bad he's trying to compensate. It's actually seems relatively straight, but into the corner, he just goes straight, and he's going to almost get, oh yeah, he tries to turn, and the car doesn't go anywhere, and there were a couple of cars that come up underneath him and almost clipped him, and that was really close for a couple of those guys. Wow.
Yeah, wild. Again, just running here. If you get to that outside wall even a little bit, which I was a little worried for Cole Freilich because he did make a little contact with that outside wall, but maybe just a kiss. Maybe it didn't affect anything. But yeah, as soon as you hit that outside wall, the arrow is so sensitive on these cars, and along with that, the suspension is as well. So that right front suspension took quite of a beating off of turn number 2, and you saw him on the replay. He was full lock to the left, and nothing was happening. He was kind of along for the ride, and at that point, as pit stops are underway here, as the field heads down pit lane, almost everybody on the pit lane.
It looks like everybody is taking the trip down pit road. We're going to find out and see who's got the fastest pit crew here and who's going to roll off out of the pits. I think we may see a big shuffle here in our top 10 as pit stops now start here at the Indianapolis 500 here on lap number 16. Looks like one car stayed out, so we're going to see exactly what's happening. It looks like Rick Ravon got a good pit stop there. We're going to see how it shuffles out here as they roll out of the pit lane there. Looks like car number 57. It rolls out first. Scott Rambler, first off pit road.
So Scottless Rambler rolling out of the pit lane first, and that's a big jump up for him. Remember, he was battling for about third and fourth there with Spencer Madden and Cole Freilich before that yellow comes out. So to jump up a couple of spots over Rick Ravon and Cole Freilich, definitely a big gain for him, the driver of the 57. That car who stayed out looks to be actually the late joining Andrew Cootie, who we didn't think we'd have in the field. That team has gotten things sorted out, and a late addition to the field then. Well, I shouldn't say late addition because he was planning to start. Just had those issues right before the race. Didn't think he was going to make it, but ends up turning up. So glad to have the 48 then of Andrew Cootie join the field. They should get the wave around here momentarily and go on by this field and only be 2 laps down instead of 3. Thomas Gold then will be 1 lap down, and he's stuck in the pits. I don't think he's going to be coming back on the racetrack for a good little while. Blake Erickson, it seems like, is also 1 lap down. And Trevor Eggemeyer never made the start of the race from the looks of things, 15 laps down.
Right, there goes the 48 right by the iRacing.com pace car. Yeah, so him joining late, obviously that's not the preferred situation for anybody, but he is lucky that he only joined a couple laps into the event, and we got a caution here early. We're on lap 16, so he's going to be 1 lap down as he crosses the start-finish line, I believe, and he'll have the opportunity to get those laps back later on in the event. I'm sure we are not done with cautions yet, as it only took 15 laps for somebody to misjudge a corner or the tires to give, whatever it may be. I'm assuming that we're not done. Now, what does suck for Thomas Gold there on that wild ride is he's going to have to use that fast repair. I mean, there's no way he's going to get back into this event without using that fast repair. What a wild ride he took. That being said, he's going to have to run 180 laps or thereabouts. I believe we're going to go green with 183 to go. He's going to have to run all those laps without a fast repair. So he's going to have to take it a little bit easy, kind of feel the car out, let the tires run about a stint or 2 before he can really start pushing it.
You mentioned coming back from a couple laps down. Jacques Villeneuve did it in 1995. It is possible to come back from a couple laps down and win the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, definitely not without outside the realm of possibility for these drivers to come back and still win this thing as everybody gets lined up under caution. Here you see the golf course down the back straightaway. Daytona is unique for having that airport, that fully functional fully functional international airport. There we go, out the back straightaway of Daytona. Indianapolis, though, has a full golf course to its outside of the back straightaway and actually has four holes of said golf course in the infield. So kind of unique thing to add to all of the unique bits and pieces about Indianapolis. I love this place. I don't think anyone doesn't love this place for several reasons. So as we get ready to go back, green flag racing, is Scottless Rambler going to be your leader. Rick Ravon in second place, Cole Freilich in third, then is Spencer Madden, Scott McClendon, Nick Gunther, Stephen Ellis, Zach Buchanan, Timothy Trowbridge, and Kyle Riley, your top 10 coming to the green flag.
Yep, it should be a blast here into turn number 1 as we are off and away on our way down to turn number 1 as these cars go up through the gears. Rambler trying to open up the gap to Rick Ravon. That won't stand for it will stand for a little bit, but using that slipstream and that draft down the backstretch, we should see Rick Ravon have an attack into turn number 3.
Ravon sits about 2 car lengths back from Rambler as they move out of turn number 2 down the long back straightaway. We'll see what Ravon has. He moves to the inside, down the back straightaway, side by side for the lead here at the Indianapolis 500. Rick Ravon goes back to the point.
Rayvon quickly gets on by the 57 car for the lead. That's going to bring Cole Freilich back in tow, and he'll be right on the gearbox of Scott List Rambler down the front straightaway. But Rambler's going to get that draft on Rayvon, so these 4 cars are going to have to figure things out. You got Rayvon leading now, Rambler second, and it's Freilich and Madden. And Freilich and Madden, I think, are going to be front runners all race long unless something goes awry on those 15 and 6 machines. We've seen them kind of pair up and run the front of the field before in SRCA races. Granted, Cole is usually with us in the booth for those. We go back to Atlanta in the SRCA IndyCar World Series, and definitely those two can run a race. They know how to do it. So Cole Freilich down to the inside of Rambler, easily gets that spot by turn 3.
Right, so Freilich now sets himself up easily to have another go at Rick Rayvon, or another few goes at Rick Rayvon for the race lead here of the IORL Indianapolis 500. He'll have the slipstream down the front straightaway. Rick Rayvon not defending too hard, not close enough really. Cole Freilich is, as he actually peeks to the inside of turn number 1. Peeks is all he does. He'll stay right in line. And how about these top 5 drivers now kind of grouping up and kind of letting her rip to try to get some gap on the rest of the field?
Definitely, Rayvon and Freilich, they seem to be the class of the field so far. They've been the ones up front the most as they move single file down that long back straightaway here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway into turn number 3 down the short chute. On pulls away to a 0.2 of a second lead. That equals out to about 2 car lengths over Freilich as they move out of turn 4 and down the front stretch to complete lap number 21.
So coming to lap number 21, actually, Cole Freilich just sitting in behind, and we're going to see this stay about the same way towards the front of the field. They'll start trading off the lead here shortly. But a little further back, these guys starting to vie for position. We got Kyle Riley just inside the top 10. Trowbridge on his back end, or actually in front of him. So then Harlow on his back end by about a second or so. Scott Bellum in behind Harlow. And you got kind of some spaced out drivers, but a couple of drivers who are battling would be Krug and Canero. They're not too far off each other, and this is just the kind of the secondary battles that you have throughout the field. You've got Trey Shuttlesworth back here as well, Evan Stammer, Joey Newsel, Chris Progar, Seth Stridle, who we talked to before the show. Several of these drivers a little mired further back in the field, but having their own battles down the long straightaways here and off into turns 1 and 3, 2 and 4. So they're vying for position. Most of the field is single file, but we'll see that pick up here soon.
Right, and we will. Right now, I think this is a great sign for the overview of the rest of the event. Everybody just riding single file. They're not looking to overtake as much as they should. It's already been a few laps after the restart. This is about the time it should start calming down. Bide your time. Let the race come to you. You still have to make a green flag pit stop. We have a lot of racing left in this event, and these guys, it's a great sign to see that looks like we're gonna have a clean one for at least a while.
I was keeping an eye on the bottom of the leaderboard. One of the drivers we talked to earlier on, Andrew, Franklin Ash, he has moved up from 31st to 23rd, so he's found something back there in the back. As you guys were talking, I was just keeping an eye on some of those cars in the back, as seeing how far up they have moved. So a good run for Ash, moving up 8 spots so far.
He's actually, I think, trying to go by Cuthbertson down the back straightaway. It's still getting used to some of these paint schemes. So no, actually, he was getting past there for a moment, but he gets back in front of Cuthbertson down the back straightaway. He's got Blake Erickson behind, and a caution further ahead, actually. One car slow. It's Kyle Riley. Several cars junked in the inside of the racetrack down pit lane now. As I think that's Andrew Meebach. No, that is Warren Keith with him in the pit lane. Yeah,
just wild what just happened. He same thing that happened to Thomas Gold. I think he just misjudged the center of the corner speed, the aero push or tire. Well, I don't know about tires at this point of the run, but aero push kind of got to him there on the exit of turn number 4. He met the outside wall for a friendly smile and went for a wild ride into the pit lane.
Looks like he just got, from my vantage point, looks like he just got too low there in the corner, and it shot him up the racetrack. We'll see it again here as they roll down into the turns here. We'll keep an eye on how low he got as we are on board. And it's hard to tell. And
yeah, he caught that curve.
He got in the grass there. He got in the grass, and it shot him up the racetrack, and over he went.
And that was just tragic then for Warren Keith, who was trying to avoid it and ended up getting on the brake so hard that that car turned around. Now, I quickly want to share just a little bit of what happened to me anyways in the iRacing Indy 500 last weekend. So trying a race about the same time in the morning, wasn't totally awake. I came into the pits and the brake bias had kind of reset itself to all the way to the rear. And when I came in, I did darn near the exact same thing, but it was lap 10 as opposed to lap 22, and it was under caution. This was at least, he was trying to avoid a wreck. He definitely has an excuse for it. I came in and I did about the same thing, though, and took out a couple other cars in the pit lane. What I want to take from that, though, is these Indy cars are not keen to braking hard, especially when you're going that fast down to that slow of a speed into the pit lane, trying to avoid somebody. So Indy cars are already sensitive, but especially on the brakes, it's easy to get those rears to lock up and spin like that. Pit stops, though, off and away, and it looks like Rick Ray Vaughn actually going to win the race off the pit lane that time. Spencer Madden then in second, at least the race out. Scottless Rambler third. McClendon behind him, then is Freilich. But we had some cars stay out, actually. So Scott Bellum should assume the race lead. Bruno Canero behind him. Evan Stammer and Warren Keith, your top four.
Right, I was just about to allude to that. Very interesting. These guys did just pit about 10 laps ago, and or they pitted about. Oh yeah, they did pit about 10 laps ago, and a few of those laps were under caution. So only about 7 laps under green flag on these guys' tires. Now they won't be the optimal tires that like Rick Ray Vaughn on back will have, but these guys still have some fight in these tires. So it'll be interesting to see the grab bag of strategy here up front on this restart. Again, you see what had happened with Kyle Riley. Those curbs, they're actually supposed to help these cars turn in the corner, but he got a little too much of it, and it just sent them straight up the track. Unfortunate there.
The curb will help you out, but the grass, however, will not. It looked like he kind of got a little too far underneath and into the grass, and that just upset the handling of the race car. Andrew, you mentioned when you were racing, the handling of these cars, man, it is so touchy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Everything you do affects the way this car is going to drive. So every little bit of wheel movement, every bit of throttle and brake input is going to really drastically change the way the car is handling at that very moment. So getting just a little bit too far down then on the same kind of tune, if you get too much curb, it's going to really drastically affect the way the car drives and handles and the way it responds to whatever you're trying to do to it. So in that case, he got too much curb. I'm not so sure if he got the grass, maybe a little bit with the left front and left rear tires, just a tiny bit of grass, and that immediately just sent that car into a bit of a slide. He overcorrected because, again, these cars are very sensitive, so he went to try and counter that slide and just completely drove himself into the outside wall, and unfortunately going to hinder his day. That said, a fast repair for these drivers is not going to completely keep them out of this thing, just hinder what they've got.
Right, as we alluded to with Thomas Gold, now he's got to run the next nearly 170 laps without a fast repair. Minding what you do, one more incident, your day could be done without your fast repair. So these guys biding their time, knowing that those fast repairs, at least for Kyle Riley, Thomas Gold, those are not an option anymore. So got to really keep an eye on what's in front and behind them as well.
The car we haven't got a chance to talk much about now. Up front, the Parabellum E-Race Engineering number 81. Scott Bellum is now your leader. Behind him, another guy we haven't talked much about. It is Bruno Carnero. And in third place, it is Evan Stammer. The Hoosier-sponsored Pecker Slap Racing number 23. That might be the name of the day as far as a racing team goes for me. But right behind him, they got a fire-breathing Rick Ray Vaughn, who has been one of the guys that's been the class of the field. We're going to see how long it's going to take for Ray Vaughn to dispatch of those top 3 cars.
Yeah, Rick Ray Vaughn definitely, I think, with those fresh tires and just his expertise in these Indy cars, going to give these guys a run for their money when they go back green flag racing. Already down the front straightaway, and we are green once again off into turn 1. Scott Bellum, your leader, Canero behind, then it's Stammer in third.
Wow, look at that gap Bellum has on Canero. That is definitely going to help out, but again, it's going to be a classic case of this strap being so strong down the back. Maybe Canero won't have an attack for Bellum heading into turn number 3, but we will see down the back they go. Look at the defensive line, the IndyCar snake that they're doing down, up the back straightaway. You don't want to do that too many times or you'll start scrubbing off speed. Here comes Canero peeking to the inside into turn number 3.
Carnero made a good move out of turn number 3, has to pack back in a little bit. Ravon trying to get around Stamer as Madden sits back there in that 5th spot watching it all happen as Ravon now moves back to the inside of Stamer one more time. Going to try to bring Madden as a dancing partner with him to the 4th spot as they roll down the front straightaway. As a battle for the lead, Andrew.
Canero going for the lead, almost has him cleared too. Bellum going to hang right on that right side, and that's going to make these guys tight out of the corners, especially on those old tires. Bellum running the top side, just the outside part of the groove. Now Ray Vaughn going to move in behind him. He brought Spencer Madden with him. Here comes Scott Scrambler as well. 3 wide for the lead down the back straightaway. This is only lap 28 of 200, but you'd think it's lap 198. A little bit of contact there. A shot from Spencer Madden to Canero. They get that sorted out. Canero around the bottom side of Bellum now.
Perfect display of the difference of grip that these tires have. Rick Ray Vaughn, he knew that those 2 cars in front of him had slightly older tires. They didn't have the grip to kind of handle holding that inside line, and Rick Ray Vaughn, he got the inside line on the straightaway anyway and went straight with it. 3 wide, phenomenal move for Rick Ray Vaughn to get back into that race lead. Scott Bellum, though, not too far behind us, into the wall a little bit, or maybe just trying to turn off the wall. Quite hard to see what exactly happened there, but a little bit of a moment there off of turn 2 for Scott Bellum. He's going to want to try to avoid that. Canero looking back to the inside for P2.
Just saw that little blip pop up there on the screen. Kyle Cuthbertson, new fastest lap. So we got some fast cars in the middle of the race, in the middle of the pack, but they're not able to get up there towards the front so far. As we take a look at this gaggle back there, Rambler, Madden, Freilich, they're all gathered up back there. This is the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Right now it's Rambler 4th, Madden 5th, and wow, my goodness, that is some great driving right there, Andrew.
Canero put that slide job on Bellum and sent Bellum back a couple of spots. Here comes Rambler to his inside now. Rambler has the better tires over Bellum and Canero. Now 3 wide again off into turn 3. 4 wide maybe for a moment. They thought better of it, thankfully. I'm not sure who that is. I think that was Scott McClendon showing his face in the battle. So Cole Freilich, Spencer Madden trying to get on by Bellum now. They're 2 by 2 behind him. Now they'll single file out. It's Madden loose in the bottom. Oh, contact are all around. A big wreck in the front of the pack, and that's most of the front runners.
My goodness, huge accident off of turn number 4. Cars upside down, over and over, all over the place. Cannot see anything. And I was just about to allude to Rick Ray Vaughn getting out to a gap. That's the safest spot. And that proved evident. And they're still flipping on the front straightaway. Upside down goes another car, sitting in the middle of the front straightaway upside down. As these guys get back going, a lot of faster pairs were taken out in that one.
Wow, taking a look at the Insta replay, look at the car on the inside. That was the 6 machine of Spencer Madden. Looked like he kind of got sideways, and it spooked Freilich a little bit, and Freilich ended up just spinning around.
Yeah, Madden got loose on the bottom side, ended up correcting it and saving it. But then his teammate Cole Freilich, our usual commentator, he was on air with us last night for the 600 we covered. He got a little bit spooked, and he actually got into the back end of Scott Bellum, got into the gearbox, and that contact, I think, is what sent him around. And then these guys were just off and away from there because that spun Freilich down into Madden, right-hooked Madden up in front of the field, and that was a lot of your kind of mid-to-front runners that are involved in that, just know where to go. We'll get another look at it here. Really unfortunate goings for the front of the field.
Yeah, and that's definitely alluding to, I know I've said that a lot, it's alluding to the reaction time these guys need to have and the focus. I'm not saying that he lost focus or anything, but Freilich, he was trying to give room to the inside, or to the car to his inside, and made contact with the pink car up high, and came right back down, obviously, with the contact. Just, terrible. And you got to be thinking at a million miles per I don't even know what to say. You got to be thinking at such a high rate of speed that you almost don't register cars around you. You quickly forget about them as that goes to the back of your mind. Just, a great mental game the Indianapolis 500 is, and that was one of the great displays right there.
There it is right there. Madden got low. As we saw that earlier on with Gould. He got low, and there's contact right there. As and it did all just accordion effect after that. But Madden, he got low, looked like he got his tire in the grass as well.
Yeah, Madden got down to the bottom side and got into the grass. That's what scared Freilich. So absolutely, I mean, that's a good reason to be scared if you're going to get scared and make a mistake like that. But unfortunately, going to take a lot of really good cars out of the front running of this. It's going to send them to the back of the field, but they should stay in the race. as you see just the melee down the front stretch, and certainly not what you want to see so early in one of these races.
Right. Back to faster pairs. Yeah, that's a good chunk of faster pairs taken there. Now, if these guys have optional damage, I'm sure it will definitely take that option, but so much carnage on the front straightaway. I don't think there's many people who have the option of just, doing damage from the pit lane without it taking a great deal of time. And that being said, I can't really, I didn't really keep a tab on it, but I just hope that Thomas Gould and Kyle Riley stayed out of that one, because they are out of faster pairs heading in or before this incident anyway. Well, just terrible situation off of turn 4. Nobody's real fault or anything, just racing, and collected quite a few cars.
And this is adversely shaken up our top 10. We got a new leader is the 4 machine of Zach Buchanan in that second spot. It looks like, well, we got second and third jumbled up here on the screen here. I believe second is Rayvon. And on the track, it looks like Noisel is in that second spot and Rayvon is third. There we go. So Rayvon and Rambler still sticking up there in the top 5. But we have a whole different ball game as far as names go here in the top 10 now.
Yeah, and Buchanan and Newsel actually stayed out to get that position. Rayvon, Rambler, Harlow, Krug, they're all on tires after that one, after that incident, and they got through it. Of course, Rayvon and Rambler were in front of it. Then you have Harlow, Krug, Ellis, Shuttlesworth, Stammer, and let's see, I lost track of 10th, Stridle, who all got through that thing, came in for tires, and they're the back 6 to the top 10. They got through it, but we're not already up in the front running. So, 8 new cars in the top 10. Those two who we're used to seeing up here, Rick Rayvon, Scott Rambler, they have tires, but they are behind the fast Zach Buchanan and Joey Newsel. They're on 8-lap old tires. It shouldn't be that big of a difference, shouldn't mean too much, but we'll see here in a moment exactly what 8 laps versus 1 lap will do to your tires as we get ready to go green flag racing this next time by, again, your top 10, Buchanan, Newsel, Raven, Scott Rambler, Harlow, Krug, Ellis, Trey Shuttlesworth, actually. Good to see him out here. Evan Stammer and Seth Stridle, who we talked to before the race.
And Rick Rayvon, no stranger to having to move his way up through cars with slightly older tires, as just this last restart was a great display of that. One person this caution does help out, though, is that 48 of Cootie. If Andrew Cootie, he gets onto 1 lap down, so one more caution, he'll be right back into this event after having to start about 3 laps down, as the iRacing.com pace car will head for the pit lane here. Zach Buchanan had a blistering lap early into this Indianapolis 500. Let's see what he can do as we are off and away on our way to turn number 1. These cars, they look to get up to the gears upwards of 180 miles per hour heading into turn number 1.
And Buchanan shoots out to about a half a second lead over Newsel as they roll out of turn number 1 and 2. Rayvon in that third spot going to try to dispose of Newsel as they roll down the short chute, but he had to tuck back in just a little bit. They're single file as they roll out of turn number 2 down the long back straightaway. They snake around a little bit. Rayvon trying to find a way around as we go on board with Rick Rayvon. He goes to the outside of Newsel for that second spot into turn number 3, and he'll take the spot using the outside, Andrew.
And Rambler going to follow suit. He shoves his way up to that top lane. And you really can't push and shove too much in these cars, but Rambler showed how to do it right there. Just stuck his nose up there. And, of course, Newsel has to give way or wreck them both. So at that point, Rambler did the right thing to get his position, albeit pretty aggressive. Now, Buchanan loses the lead really quickly to Rayvon. I didn't expect that to happen so quickly. Buchanan's already back into P2. Rayvon showing that those tires mean everything. That said, Buchanan and Newsel, they still gained a lot of spots. So as long as they can hang on right here, not lose too much more, they'll be doing all right. A little further back, Roswell Harlow now is in this battle. Bobby Krug behind him.
All right. About Rayvon, yeah, it took him 1 lap from the start, or from the restart to the yard of bricks there on the front stretch for him to get to the race lead. Just part of his expertise and his his experience in Indy cars here is Zach Buchanan back on the gearbox of that number 5. We'll see what he can do as he backs off a little bit on corner entry, having to work with the tires he has, slightly aged.
We're on board with the ATA network, number 51 of Bobby Krug as he runs in the 5th position. Looking ahead of him is Newsel as Bobby Krug, the Illinois native, running comfortably in the top 5 right now, not gaining a little bit. Well, as soon as I say that he gains just a little bit on Neusel, he's going to try to make a run on that 4th spot. Here's your top 5, run single file. It's Harlow, Ellis, Shuttlesworth, Stamer, and Stridle rounding out the top 10 here as we complete lap number 36.
So 36 in the books, another 64 to go. And these guys now are just going to have to settle into the race pace, obviously. We've been talking about that since the start of the show, actually. Of course, Rick Ray Vaughn didn't want to get to the front too early. Well, he's done exactly that. So he's already gone back on his word there. But he made a good point. But you don't want to get up there too early. You don't want to get involved in these messes that we've seen so far, because you've got to make all 200 laps. We talked about it last night, the endurance race that we had at Charlotte with the Galaxy Cup Series in the Abillion Wood Projects LLC.com 600 miles, especially at Charlotte Motor Speedway, a long time. That's no different here at Indianapolis. 500 miles is going to take a while. We're looking at still another 3 hours ahead of us of racing at least. So definitely, these guys still have a long ways to go. It's oval endurance racing pretty much. We talked to, I think, Stridle, who said, he's used to doing these the endurance races. That might have actually been Franklin Atch. I forget now. It's one of those 2 kart racers anyways. You might be used to doing endurance races, but this is going to be entirely different because you're just on edge every single lap. In a normal road endurance race, you can calm down for a few laps. Between battles, you're just kind of riding around for a little while, getting into a groove, getting into a rhythm, and kind of just not even think about it. But in these Coke 600s and Indy 500s and whatnot, you're white knuckle almost the entire race.
Absolutely. The Indy 500, again, it requires mental focus. All 800 corners you navigate, because one mis-entry into a corner and your day could be over on the other side of that corner. So again, these guys have to be completely focused and in the mindset that they have to keep all 4 tires on the pavement. Rick Ray Vaughn, right, as he did say in his interview, not wanting to be so aggressive getting to the front, but has done it, I believe, 3 or 4 times now. But the front is the safest place until, we can get a green flag run and maybe lap cars become a factor. Then we start talking about just having to bide your time with those cars, especially because those are not for position. The Indy 500 also has claimed its victims, 3 drivers disconnected and only 29 running at this moment.
And another word we have to look at is patience. A lot of drivers, you got to be patient. You got to have patience. It's a 200-lap race. You can't win it on the first lap, and we're going to see the drivers at the end who've had that patience. We got some guys running up through the middle of the racetrack, or the middle of the field, excuse me, that started back and have worked their way up. So another word, Andrew, patience. That's the word of the day for me.
Absolutely. Of course, we're only on lap 40 of 200 now, and a really long ways to go. We're looking back in the top 10 a little bit at some drivers. We've got Trey Shuttlesworth back here battling with Ellis and Stamer, Cuthbertson as well. Cole Freilich mentioned Cuthbertson actually as one of his buddies in the race. Cuthbertson was barely added to the league in time for this race, barely made the field. He was actually added afterwards after a couple of withdrawals from a couple other drivers who made the show. So Cuthbertson didn't even make it on time, wasn't sure that he was going to be racing, and was added later on, thankfully, because Cuthbertson is currently 11th place and showing that he's got what it takes to run with these guys. He's behind Matt Chubb and in front of Seth Stridle, so Cuthbertson in his first start in this race already doing pretty good.
Yeah, in this pack, you see a little ways back behind, I believe, Stridle, you have Kyle Riley, who I guess did not get into that accident. He's riding mid-pack right now. Great for him. Also, further back, Cole Freilich, Spencer Madden. Of course, those 2 were up there, but right now riding 19th and 21st. A new world for them, as they were used to being up front and seeing quite a bit of pavement in front of them. Now they see a bunch of race cars in front of them.
Wow, that was close. We about had caution number 3 right there as they work down the back straightaway. Now, I got to give an attaboy to Bobby Krug in that 4th spot. He started 30th on the grid and has, worked the cautions and meticulously found his way up to the 4th position.
Yeah, definitely no easy feat going through 26, 27 positions to get up almost to the top 3 now. So Bobby Krug has made easy work of this field. We saw him actually, he was the car who narrowly missed that flipping, I got to think who it was, Thomas Gold earlier on in turn number 3. He barely drove underneath that flipping Thomas Gold machine, and now look at him. Thanks to just driving underneath him in 4th place, and looks like he's going to have a pretty good car here for the rest of the day. Of course, fixed setup racing, a bit different in terms of having a good car versus a bad car, but it's really a matter of how you treat the car. Obviously, you got to keep the car in one piece. You got to treat your tires right. Make sure you conserve tires to the end of the race as best as you can, or at least to the end of the run as best as you can. So while you don't have the adjustments you might usually make in one of these IndyCar races, it's still important to keep your car in good shape. A battle here, though, for about the 10th position. Cuthbertson trying to hold off Stammer and Stridle right now. They were almost 3 wide out of turn 4.
Yeah, and this is just another great thing about the Indianapolis 500. Battles up and down the running order nearly all day long as Cuthbertson is able to open up a gap a little bit to Stammer. Remember, Stammer was up there on one of the restarts. He was on slightly older tires, so still just outside the top 10. A great strategic move for Evan Stammer.
Sitting on board with Seth Stridle right now in that 12th position as he meticulously works the low side of the racetrack. Or had talked to him earlier on before the race started. He's got Evan Stammer looking to the front side of him. Behind him it is Esch. So 0.2 of a second separates Stammer from Stridle, and then another 1/10 of a second back between Stridle and Esch as we work lap number 45 of the Indianapolis 500. Rick Ravon continues to lead as he has most of the day.
Yeah, Rick Ravon just putting a pounding on this field. To the inside, though, goes Stridle, actually, underneath Stammer. That's going to be good for the 11th position. So, move Stridle up 1 spot. Good thing we talked to him, got a bit of an insight about him and his kart racing career as he's working his way up closer and closer to possibly that top 10. He's got to go through Cuthbertson to do it, though. A couple of cars back, we mentioned Ash real quick, actually, as well. We talked to him before the race, and he's back here. He's in the, 13th position, but another battle. Kyle Riley looking to the inside of Carnero, who we saw going for the lead not too long ago. Towards the start of the race, Carnero was up there and looked like he was pretty quick. Now mired back in 14th spot as the 20 car. Under fire from Kyle Riley, and even behind that, McClintock and Freilich are battling. Or no, actually, that's a lap car.
That is a lap car. But on the other side of the battle for the 14th position, Kyle Riley, remember, he was upside down and in the air coming off of turn number 4. So what a comeback it has been from the back of the grid thus far. Sitting in the top 15 right now, which after being upside down, I don't think is too shabby.
No, not at all. When you can get upside down and then work yourself back into the top 15, you're having a great day. And it is still early, so we never know where he's going to end up. So the New York native Kyle Riley sitting there, right there, as we take a look at him, currently sitting 15th. He started 14th. We'll see what he has throughout the race as it goes on.
And definitely another driver who was involved in something not too long ago would actually be that number 24, Warren Keith, not too far back. He's in 19th, mired a little ways back there, but he's ahead of Spencer Madden. So we were talking about Spencer Madden having one of the better cars of the race so far. He's in front of Spencer Madden. I think that's a pretty good day so far, but Warren Keith was avoiding that spinning and flipping. Kyle Riley ducked down into the pit lane for safety and actually got on the brakes so hard that car snapped around and the National Guard machine was in the pit wall pretty hard.
Outfitting, we have a National Guard machine being ran here on Memorial Day weekend. Just a great testament to those we remember for giving their service on this great weekend.
Remember a few years back, a National Guard car almost won the Indianapolis 500 when J.R. Hildebrand was leading and coming out of turn 4 and spun and crashed coming to the win. So National Guard cars, they always seem to run well on Memorial Day.
Yeah, I was a bit younger actually watching that race, and I just associated National Guard with Dale Jr., who I was a fan of as a kid. So I immediately clung to J.R. Hildebrand, and I can't tell you how disappointed I was to see Hildebrand pound that turn 4 wall. And I mean, that just killed me that day. Even though I had no clue about who anybody else in the field, other than maybe Tony Kanaan and Scott Dixon, really just never kind of clung to IndyCar as a kid. But now, I mean, definitely, I think this is some of the better racing in the U.S., right up there with NASCAR, of course. Some of the best racing in real life and, of course, on the sim. We had great racing last night with the NASCAR Cup cars. We have great racing this afternoon so far with these Indy cars. And the nice thing about iRacing, actually, is you can kind of go back in time to the days of J.R. Hildebrand, for example, and race some of the older Indy cars on the service. You have the IR05, I believe, and the DW12. There's a couple of other Dallara chassis that you can run on the service, so that's always a nice little bit of a throwback. And we even have some more additions to the throwback scene, and we got the 1987 Cup cars, at least the Monte Carlo with Thunderbird, coming to iRacing here shortly. So a lot of good additions on the way, and already a lot of good kind of throwback options if that's your thing. McClendon, I will say, On a completely different note, anyways, Scott McClendon, 25th, is battling here a lap down with some of these lead cars, and certainly, I think, kind of getting in the way of some of these battles.
Right. Quick note on the Warren Keefe. He just got passed by Spencer Madden for the 19th position. Madden actually working on Scott Bellum, working his way up to 18th. Madden on a tear, trying to get up to the field, as the next car in front of Madden now would be Cole Freilich, as they can work their way up from the back of the field.
I believe we are looking at the, there it is, the number 24 machine. That is Mr. Keith as he rolls down the back straightaway. Cars starting to spread out a little bit. Do you get these long green flag runs? Cars start to spread out, and passing becomes a premium as now we look back at Spencer Madden's machine here as they roll out of turn number 4 down the front straightaway, down the long front straightaway here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Indianapolis 500.
Oh, Rick Ray Vaughn on the pit lane? No, okay.
Wow, yeah, yeah, okay. Well,
we both saw him drop down the standings, and I was very concerned. We both saw that. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Yeah, we both about freaked out there. It's like your leader is gone.
Well, Rick Ray Vaughn continues to lead then over Scottless Rambler. About 0.7 seconds between those guys, and an even larger gap, about 4.5 seconds back to Zach Buchanan. So a big gap at the start of your field. Let's see, another 1.5 back to Bobby Krug, then Joey Newsel not too far back. So really the whole top end of this field, very spread out. But you have those couple of battles further back. It's worth keeping up with those. Scott Bellum, he's worked his way on by Warren Keith. And you mentioned that, Emerson, that was for the 19th position. Spencer Madden got on by him for 18th. Cole Freilich is ahead of Spencer Madden. That is for 17th. And McClintock ahead of him. So a lot of these guys just kind of settling into kind of the long run mentality, trying to save their cars and make it through these 200 laps.
So what is interesting, as we did just pass the 1/4 mark of this event about 3 laps ago, Cole Freilich actually right now closing in on McClintock for position here, or is that the lead lap car? Actually, no, that is her position. That is McClintock. As Cole Freilich alluded to in his pre-race interview, that you can only go about 28 to 32 laps according to Freilich, and right now we are working at lap 21 since the last caution period. So tires starting to give on these guys to feel more spread out. Hopefully you can get some green flag pit stops underway, but also looking at these tires, the degradation increases on these tires, and these cars become harder and harder to drive, especially in some slipstream. As Freilich looking to the inside for that P number 16.
Freilich looking to get underneath McClintock for that 16th position. As he's in Freilich, he's had one of the cars to beat today. As we look behind Jeffrey McClintock, back to Freilich. Man, tell you what, Freilich got a little squirrely there coming out of turn number 4. He about had his second incident of the day.
Yeah, that was really sideways there for the number 15 of Freilich. Thankfully keeps it underneath him, but I think he's just trying really, really hard right now to work his way through the field, and he's just got to settle down. You still have 150 laps almost to go. You just got to get into a rhythm, work your way through the field, and you have several green flag pit stops on the way. You see him get very close to that outside wall. I think Cole is definitely just trying a little bit too hard right now. He's just got to settle in. Now he's going to make the move on McClintock, and that's okay to do because he drafted right up to him, and that was the right thing to do there. He's going to slide up a little bit, makes that pass, and he's going to bring his teammate Spencer Madden with him here in a moment. Spencer Madden back there in the number 6 gets right in behind McClintock, and he's now going to have to try and draft down the front straightaway to try and make the same move off into 1.
Right, you see Madden right on the gearbox of that 99. As now he peeks to the inside. He'll have the benefit to turn number 1 of that inside lane cleared to that 17th position. So what is interesting here is we are coming up to our first round of green flag pit stops, hopefully. And when you pit now, can set up your strategy for the rest of the event. And especially if we have a longer green flag run. If you pit in a couple laps, you can start to short pit other drivers who are trying to go a little bit longer into tires. That being said, you'll have fresh tires and you'll be able to make up time on that. That also being said, they pit later and then they'll have fresher tires while yours are a little worn out and be able to gain on you. So it'll be interesting to see what lap drivers come on down the pit lane to see if they can get an advantage on their competitors.
Yeah, we should be getting really close to green flag pit stops. I'm going to say within the next 10 laps or so. It'll be interesting to see who peels off first. Ravon and Rambler right now the class of the field over 6 seconds ahead of third place Buchanan. As field start to spread out, that's normal here in Indianapolis. You get some good battles throughout the back of the pack, and just not much happening right now throughout the field. Everybody running single file and staying in their lane and staying clean.
Definitely a very calm race right now. I was doing some math in my head, and if my math is correct, if you come in about lap 62, 63, you're perfect to the end of the race. That's going to give you about to lap 95, 96 or so, maybe 97, and then to about lap 120 or so. No, sorry, 130 or so, in that range. And then from there, it's pretty much just a setup for about 34, 35 lap runs to the end of the race. So that caution came out at a perfect time as far as making these guys' lives easy, as actually we've had a pass for the lead. Scottless Rambler goes on by the pitting Rick Ray Vaughn, so an early pit, I think, actually, out of Rick Ray Vaughn. The undercut then, only about 27 laps into the stint, he's going to bring Zach Buchanan, and it looks like Joey Newsel with him as well.
Bingo, this is just exactly what I was talking about, trying to get that advantage, and or the tires maybe just screaming for mercy as Ray Vaughn, I think he just slid through his box a little bit onto the jacks he goes, or the air jacks, and those tires go on. See how long this stop is. Looks like he is down and away in 9.6 seconds. That's actually a slightly longer stop for these Indy cars.
Yeah, definitely. You usually see pit stops in the 7-second range. We're going to see where Ray Vaughn ends up back out onto the racetrack, but everything's going to cycle back through, so it may not have hurt him that much. We'll find out once everybody cycles through their pit stops.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like he's going to cycle out into around 19th or so. It's hard to say. We have some more cars, I think, going to be working their way down the pit lane here shortly. We'll wait and see exactly who does and when they come in. Right now, though, your leader, Scottless Rambler, around turns 3 and 4. Be waiting to see if he comes in this time around. I'm not so sure that you want to pit just right yet because, I think you want to come in just a few laps later. Try and give yourself some insurance towards the end of the race, but I guess these guys are confident in their strategy. I think that's Cole Fralick down the pit lane as well. He's off and away.
Yeah, as you alluded to, with Raymer just staying out there, he's made his bed now as far as his battle with Rick Ray Vaughn is going. Now he has to pretty much go as long as he can to try to get the advantage he can get on his fresh tires whenever he does pit compared to Ray Vaughn's.
There's Buchanan getting a lap back away from your leader, Rambler. I don't think Buchanan has pit yet. I may be mistaken. He might have. So we'll find out as they roll down a turn. Who he has? Okay, there we go. So the Ford machine of Buchanan getting a lap back from Rambler. Buchanan's been pretty fast, too. We just haven't seen much of him.
Yeah, Buchanan definitely one of the better guys in the field, and he prides himself. He's actually won 2 of these races the last few years. He prides himself in his performance here in the Indianapolis 500 for the IORL. So as you see on your ticker, a lot of names jumping around. That's just pit stops taking place, and you're going to see a lot of drivers dropping down the list. We can't keep up with all of them, unfortunately, but we can try and keep up with them as best as we can. Cole Fralick actually is not pitted yet, so I was mistaken. I thought he'd come in. He has not. He's still on 31 lap old tires. Some drivers that are in the pit lane, though, would be, let's see if we can get back to him, Scott Bellum. He is just entering his box. We've got Trey Shuttlesworth down here as well. Matt Chubb, several of these other guys coming down for service. Jeffrey McClintock has made his stop. He's off and away. Franklin Ash as well. So a lot of these drivers obviously coming in and getting their stops done a little bit earlier. We'll see when Scottless Rambler comes in. He's got about 5 laps or so before he has to.
Right, and like I said, he has made his bed in his battle with Rick Ray Vaughn. Keeping an eye, me personally, I've been keeping an eye on Rick Ray Vaughn. Not only has he been slicing and dicing his way back up the scoring pylon on the left side of your screen, he's been slicing and dicing through traffic, obviously with his fresh tires. About 3 or 4 cars he's been weaving in and out of on his way up the running order. So, hopefully he's not wearing out his tires with that, but granted, he's quite an expert in these cars, so I wouldn't doubt that he knows what he's doing.
Ray Vaughn's been my MVP of the race so far. He's been spectacular up front. Between him and Rambler, those two have got to be my MVPs of the race so far. We're going to see how much patience Rick has, though, as he currently sits 32 seconds behind the leader right now. But that's going to change as pit stops roll through. I have a feeling he'll be back up front here soon.
Absolutely, and to only be 32 seconds behind Scottless Rambler means Rick Ray Vaughn's easily going to cycle back into the lead, considering overall pit lane time is about 36 seconds. in that range, at least for Rick Vaughn. So Scottless Rambler down the pit lane now. He's coming in for his service. See a car behind him missing half of his right side wing, but he's going to come in and get that repaired. He'll get that new wing put on his car. Not sure who that was, actually. But Scottless Rambler, all eyes of that 57 car as he comes in for service.
The 34 of Kyle Kubertson has taken over the race lead now as I believe that's Bellum going right on by, getting one of his laps back. So yeah, where Rambler comes out in relation to Ray Vaughn right around the outside and up to third position, our theoretical race leader when pit stops cycle out, and that's the tail right there on strategy.
Now the field's going to be in trouble if Rayvon can get a huge lead. That's my opinion, and my opinion only. But the way he's been running, he has been extremely, extremely fast this whole race. And if he can get a comfortable advantage later on in the race, with I'd say about 20 laps to go, nobody's going to catch him.
No, definitely not. And let's see, he's going to have probably 4 seconds somewhere in there on Rambler, if not more. Well, no, looking about 3 seconds on Rambler. Kyle Riley's still on the racetrack. He has not pitted yet, but Cuthbertson just came in for his service. So Kyle Riley, the last car, it looks like, to come in for service. I think everybody else has come in, recently enough, except for actually Scott McClendon, that lap car. So he's still got to come in as well. So 2 cars left to pit, and one of them lap down, one of them leading, only by virtue of staying out on the racetrack. We'll see. He's going to come in this time. So Rick Ray Vaughn will assume your lead here momentarily.
Right, actually sliding to make pit road speed, Kyle Riley does. I'm just going to say, though it's via pit strategy and, staying out on pit stops, how about that from on his wild ride about 40 laps ago? Now, he was leading this race, so just what a story. Hopefully he can get a great run later in this race as we hit 67 of 200 laps, Rick Ray Vaughn, to our race lead. He has about a 2-second advantage. Now, remember, though, Rambler has fresher tires than Ray Vaughn by about, 10 laps. So that's going to shake things up as the gap is closing out to about 2 seconds flat.
Cautions may tell an advantage or tell a tale here as the race goes on as well. We've only seen 2 cautions so far. This has been a very, very long extended green flag run as Rayvon currently leads right now. We are currently 3 cautions in, for 7 laps. 14 different lead changes here at the Indianapolis 500 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's not been boring up front, that's for sure, with 14 lead changes.
No, it's not. These guys have been trading the lead left and right, and we saw Freilich and Rayvon do it so much in that first run before we had those couple of yellows. And since then, it's kind of worked its way out. We'll also go ahead and take a look at the weather for today. A nice mild, I'd say, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temp, though, 123 degrees. Not too much crosswind, 8-9 miles an hour. Not really going to hurt you too bad, and you see it actually dropping there a ton, down to about 6 miles an hour. So not too bad, I think, for these guys. Pretty decent conditions. The track definitely heating up, and it's only going to go higher and higher throughout the afternoon. But that said, still a lot of grip in this racetrack to be had, and they've proven that over the course of these 69 and now 70 laps here so far. We'll say Zach Buchanan right back into 3rd place. Bobby Krug then in 4th. Joey Newsel rounds back out into 5th place, cycles back out into 5th rather. Roswell Harlow in 6th, Matt Chubb in 7th, then it's Trey Shuttlesworth in 8th, Franklin Ash in 9th, and Jeffrey McClintock in 10th. So some of those battles we were watching earlier on, they've changed places just a little bit. Actually, Cole Freilich up to 12th now through those pit stops. Seth Stridle into 13th. So Freilich and Madden working their way up because Madden's actually now in 14th, so they're mirroring each other.
I was just about to say they have been working their way up silently but quickly in relative to how long this race is. Freilich, Madden, with a few more stops in their favor or some yellow flags in their favor, should be right back up in this thing, though fast repair not included. As I believe it was Chris who alluded to it earlier, Rick Ray Vaughn, Scott Rambler, definitely class of the field today. They have about 9.25 seconds on 3rd place Zach Buchanan. That is absolutely wild.
Yeah, definitely. Those 2 drivers have got this race under control as we roll lap 71 in the books right now. As it shows Buchanan as the leader, but I believe Rayvon is still out front. It's got to cycle back through on our screen, so don't panic. I believe Rayvon is still out front.
Yeah, that's actually just how big the gap is right now. Some of the cars de-render when they're quite a ways away from the car you're focused on. So, considering we're watching Cole Freilich right now through 1 and 2, I think it's de-rendering those couple of leaders in Ray-Vaughn and Ray-Vaughn and Ramler. So if we go back up to them, they're still racing along. They're still doing the thing. And actually, we could have a battle for the lead here shortly because Ramler is all over the gearbox of Ray-Vaughn, and with a little bit of a rubber advantage, that could be an interesting battle.
Right, tires are definitely going to be coming to play here. This is exactly what I meant about the short pit versus the overcut. You want to see what you can get in terms of tire life, but it depends when you want that. Down the back straightaway they go to snake they had. Ray Vaughn putting on a great block down the back straightaway. If you would say Ramler was close enough to call it a block, we'll have the slipstream through turns 3 and 4, and onto the front straightaway we go. Let's see what Ramler can do down the front stretch.
He's got a decent little size lead here as we look back at Ramler. Ramler, though, catching up. He's going to go to the inside, battle for the lead into turn number 1. Ramler, your new leader, as they go side by side out of turn number 1. As you see Ramler slide in front of Ray-Vaughn, you've got a new leader and another lead change here at the Indy 500.
Make that 15 lead changes now as Ramler is off and away with that lead, and he starts to gap Ray-Vaughn by just a little bit, looking back now from the 57 car at the 5, so trading places a bit, but I don't think Ray-Vaughn is out of this thing by any means. Ramler, you can definitely hear he's actually starting to scrub his tires a little bit too, so Ramler's running hard, and he's trying to get away from Rick Ray-Vaughn right now, so that definitely tells you that these two are thinking about each other and thinking about how good each other are, so Ramler definitely going to try and gap that 5 car the best as he can, but we'll have to wait and see exactly how that works out for the 5 car Ray-Vaughn, because if it comes down to it, really, it just matters who's first at the end of lap 200, not at the end of lap 74. The way things cycle out, it could lean in Ray-Vaughn's favor because he should be ahead if things go exactly how they just went and continue to do that, just repeating. I think Ray-Vaughn might actually be ahead and might have the edge right now over Ramler.
Right, definitely cautions provided. Either if we go green to the end or Ray-Vaughn gets a caution at the perfect time. This can go either way, obviously, but about a 10-lap difference, and that could grow as this race goes on if Ray-Vaughn tries to short pit once again. So 2 different strategies up front with nearly an 11-second advantage. It definitely is a 2-horse race for the time being, but we'll see. It'll be dependent again on how the outlook of the race is, as I believe they're catching up to the lap car. That's the 48 of Andrew Cootie. Once again, he was 1 lap down, about to go 2 down.
Ramler, as soon as he got the lead, he has just motored on from Ray-Vaughn. As you mentioned, the tires a little bit different between the two, as Cootie now rolls into the pit lane. So he's going to go another lap down. There's the gap between first and second as they roll into turn number 1 here at the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We are 24 laps away from halfway. It's been a pretty fast and furious race here at IMS.
Yeah, that it has, and you mentioned how beautiful this place is. We can take a look real quick as the action kind of winds down for a moment. Just look at how picturesque this place is. It's definitely, I think, rightly so, the mecca of open wheel racing, as I mentioned at the start of the show. This place just, it's everything it needs to be. It's everything a race fan, a racer wants it to be. And I can't think of a better place to hold the mid portion of what would usually be a racing fans Super Sunday, if you will, the Sunday before Memorial Day. And it's a great way to kind of anchor down the middle of the weekend. And again, usually you have Monaco for F1 start in the morning. You tune into Indy, on ESPN, ABC, whatever it may be that year, and then you go over to the Coke 600 for NASCAR. And I think the Indy 500 definitely a really good way to anchor down. I can't think of 3 better tracks at all to anchor down Memorial Day weekend for race fans. And hopefully, come next year, everything gets sort of back out, and we can have our Memorial Day weekend back to the way it should be.
Right. Another thing, and it hasn't happened every Memorial Day weekend, but what has also happened in terms of for racing fans' pleasure is the 24 hours of Nürburgring. That is not necessarily one of the bigger race, or it's a big race in its own at Nürburgring, also known as the Green Hell, at 24 hours at such a historic track. That Monte Carlo, Monaco, That is also an amazing street circuit for Formula One. The history that it has, it even violates some FIA rules, but the legacy Monaco has, it keeps it on the schedule. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, obviously, what are we at? Nearly 110 years that this track has been and it's 111 years that this track has been in its existence, and it has produced great racing almost every year, besides obviously the years with the World War.
And IMS, they're growing as the years go on. As Andrew mentioned, the Brickyard Crossing golf course and the infield on the outfield. And with the addition of the dirt track at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that dirt track has put on some memorable races in the past couple of years as well. So, Douglas Bowles, president of IMS, and and the crew, they know exactly what the fans are wanting, and they keep adding on and adding on. And how long till lights are installed? You never know.
I mean, that's been rumbling around for years about the possibility of lights at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and bringing a bit of a change up. I think really that would be for NASCAR. I think over anything else, maybe even the IndyCar Grand Prix here at Indianapolis. You never really know. And it would certainly open up the possibility for some really good sports car racing around this facility. The road course they have in the infield, as we see some drivers battle here. That's McClendon looking to the inside, I believe, of Stridle. I don't think they're for position right now. Stridle only has to worry about, actually might be Spencer Badreck behind him, and no, it is McClendon sticking his nose in there. So a couple of these cars further back, not even on the same lap, still battling. But going back to just Indianapolis Motor Speedway as a whole, the purchase of this place and of IndyCar by Roger Penske, I think, is really going to revitalize the possibilities for Indianapolis and for IndyCar as a whole. It's just going to bring so many possibilities for this place, and already talking about trying to cope with everything going on this year, obviously the COVID-19 situation. Well, now we're going to have a NASCAR IndyCar double-header for the first time, I think, at least with the Cup Series and NTT Data IndyCar Series at Indianapolis. Now, we're going to have, I think, oval racing and road racing the same day, because it's going to be the Indy GP and the NASCAR Cup Series race at Indianapolis. But we are going to have the NASCAR Xfinity Series go to the road course with the Indy cars that same weekend. So laying down some Firestone and Goodyear rubber the same weekend, that's going to be so cool to see. Whether or not fans are in attendance, I think that's going to be a weekend that you have to keep your eyes on as a race fan, and just watch how that goes with those Xfinity cars rolling around the same course as the Indy cars.
Right, I think that was a brilliant idea for Roger Penske. If you don't know who he is, or chances are if you're a race fan, you do know who he is. You have at least heard the name. Not only does he own a race team that has strengths across multiple motorsports, but he is also a passionate race fan. He cares about motorsports as a whole. As Rambler, had a huge moment, I believe, coming through turn number one, almost kissing that outside wall of his right rear. But Roger Penske, he knows that NASCAR fans are frustrated with Indianapolis on the schedule, as most NASCAR fans allude to it being like an IndyCar-specific track. And though it was built for IndyCar, it's a fantastic and historic facility, which is why NASCAR wants to keep it on the schedule. Roger Penske brought the brilliant idea of having the Xfinity cars run on the road course here to spice things up. And who knows what else Roger Penske could bring to this circuit for multiple fans of multiple motorsports to enjoy. As you alluded to, sports car racing as well can make a return here.
He's definitely a guy that thinks outside the box, and then that's what you need here in this modern world of auto racing. You need promoters, you need owners and presidents that think outside the box and have different ideas on what to bring to the table for the race fans. Because sometimes we all know race fans can be finicky, and they, if things stay the same and stay status quo forever, they get bored with it. So they want to see something new.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've seen several changes in NASCAR in recent years to try and change things up there. We've seen some changes bringing this, I think, better IndyCar chassis for sure, this better Dallara chassis to IndyCar racing to change things up, moving away from the DW12, and it seems like this will be the platform that IndyCar works with for years to come. I think definitely a welcome change for just both racing series that we're talking about here, and welcome changes over in sports car racing as well, with IMSA and WEC starting to work together in just fantastic ways. So really good things coming to racing as a whole. Now, I do want to mention somebody who's working his way up through the field, getting back to the action on the racetrack. Trey Shuttlesworth up to the 6th place. Now, the ticker's going to go a little bit wonky because we have some cars rendering in and rendering out. But Shuttlesworth up to 6th place and starting to look like he has a car for the end of the race here.
Ooh, Blake Erickson. I know you were just talking about another driver. Blake Erickson almost had contact with Scott Listramler, and he came to pit road right after that, but they got very close in turn 3. I was holding my breath watching the 57 try to negotiate lap traffic. Is that smoke on the back straightaway? Can't quite tell. Looked like gray smoke, so definitely something to keep tabs on. I believe Trowbridge has disconnected from the session. We have 27 cars running. Wow. Either Trowbridge or Cootie had an issue there. Wow, I lost for words, as you can hear.
Like I said, maybe something blew up in his car terminal, and he just had to disconnect.
Freilich.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. At least on my timing, it's going. Cole Freilich is grayed out.
He is.
He is disconnected from the session.
Oh wow, tough break for Cole Freilich. He was one of
his
our.
car is completely wrecked as well. I think that's what the smoke was. The inside of turn 2. We'll try and get a replay on this. We may or may not have it, but we see the end result at least for Cole Freilich, quite unfortunately. As we do have the replay. So watch the Budweiser number 15, center of your screen, out of turn 2. He's got McClendon behind him. I wonder if something... well, no, nothing happens with McClendon. Freilich just hits the wall and goes for a ride. Wow.
He just stuck it in the fence.
Yeah, that is wild. Freilich there. Just turn 2 caught him out again. He did make contact with that wall back on lap 14, but it was just a kiss, followed by another big incident after that brought out the caution, I believe, with Thomas Gold. Freilich has been flirting with the outside wall and the corner exits, as most drivers have. It's a nature of the circuit, the cars and the tires, but just unfortunate. Definitely one of the faster cars today. I guess other than you can say just better luck next time. Our pole sitter had a fantastic car.
And I'm going to jump in real quick. Rick Ray Vaughn just pitted, and that seems way too early. That seems a bit early there for Rick Ray Vaughn to come and get service. I think he's cutting it a little bit too close. That said, I think Zach Buchanan, he's in as well, so I guess we just went through a stint of racing here at Indianapolis that quickly, because that felt way too quick.
Now, do you? Sorry, go ahead, Andrew, or not Andrew, but go ahead, Emerson.
I'm sorry if you were going to say something. Yeah, I believe we just got into such an in-depth conversation about the history of Indianapolis and Memorial Day weekend racing in general. But yeah, it has been 28 laps that Rick Ray Vaughn went before pitting.
Now, do you think this is? I mean, do you think he pitted early, Andrew? I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know if we share the same one, but do you think it was too early?
It's certainly going to be closer and closer because you've got to run now 40 laps to 130, and I think 130 is the mark that you want to hit. This is definitely then too early for these drivers. They've got to run longer on these tanks of fuel because you're really cutting it short from here. You've got to get to about 95. I'm keeping a number of about 35 in my mind for a fuel run. That's what we saw the last time around there. You can go a couple of laps further, but you can't go 40 laps. I mean, unless they're planning on making up the extra laps here over the next few runs, you pit now at lap 90. 35 laps takes you to 125. Another 35 after that only takes you to 160. 35 after that leaves you short at 195. So these guys are about 5 laps short on that math. And granted, again, you can run a couple laps extra in there, so you can still make it to the end right now. But you want to set yourself up in kind of a constant plan so you know how long you're running each time around this racetrack. And that just feels way, way too early. And he's not alone. Here comes Scott Bell into the pit lane as well. So a lot of these drivers pitting pretty early.
Right. Yeah. We are, 30 laps after. So they pitted about in the range about 56 to like 65. And we are about 30 laps after that range. So it could be early. And as you alluded to, you've been doing the math. I don't doubt that. Maybe Rick Ray Vaughn is going on a strategy where he does have to pit one more, if we go green to the end, one more time than Ramler. That advantage, the disadvantage with that is an extra pit stop. The advantage with that is fresher rubber longer. As Wow, another retirement from the race. We were down to 24 cars running. This mighty Indianapolis Motor Speedway claiming its victims. I believe we had Blake Erickson, Eric Stammer, Andrew Cootie, Timothy Trowbridge, along with the other four, and Cole Freilich out as well.
Yeah, tough break for Freilich. He was one of our front runners starting on the pole. So his rookie run at the Indy 500 is going to end, unfortunately, early before we even get to halfway. Your leader is Rambler by 21 seconds over Bobby Krug. Rambler has now set himself in as the favorite as Rambler, Krug, Ellis, Streidel, and Ravon has now moved himself up to the 5th position as we take a look at him rolling down the front straight away. He is on the rear end of Streidel as the battle for 4th about to take shape.
Yeah, this is a 3-car battle right now for 3rd. Stephen Ellis has company from Seth Streidel, who's got company from Rick Ravon with new tires, and Ravon right to the bottom side, almost contact out of 2, but they get it worked out, and Ravon going to power right by both of those cars. It looks like actually right in the middle now into 3, and he's going to take the bottom side of Ellis through turn 3, and that's going to give Ellis actually the top side, which is going to give Streidel the bottom. He looked and then backed back out. So Seth Streidel thought about it for a moment, ends up backing out, and they both come to pit lane this time by Ellis and Streidel making their pit stops.
A beautiful overtake from Rick Ravon. Went down the back straightaway and redeemed his coupon for a 2-for-1 special for in terms of positions. Even in that battle, Rick Ravon, not this time around, but the lap before, ran 7/10 faster than Scottless Rambler. So the tire is definitely proving beneficial right now. Again, the long run still leaves a question mark.
Say Krug and Ellis just heading down pit road as now we look at your leader, Rambler. He has a 31-second lead over Rick Ravon. And Cuthbertson's now worked his way up into the 3rd spot as it looks like everybody seems to be pitting at different parts of the race as we are 5 laps away from halfway here at the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, and I got to wonder when Rambler's going to go ahead and come in. Actually, right now. So that's perfect timing, running exactly 30 laps. So my math could have been a little bit short, or a little bit long, actually. I might have been planning for these guys to have a little more fuel than they actually have to a run. So that's going to open the strategy up to a lot of different possibilities if you can't only go about 30 laps. I thought you could go a little bit longer. So that's my mistake there. We're looking at now maybe a number of about 30 as opposed to 35. So just some math on the fly, that's going to put these guys about 15 to 10, somewhere in there, laps short of the finish, which means they just pit one extra time. I don't think anybody can stretch it out then if these guys are all coming in about 30 laps after going green or going back on the racetrack. I think that's how that's going to work out. I don't think we're going to have any fuel mileage situation on our hands unless we get a caution. And, of course, this fuel mileage right now could be entirely irrelevant when it comes into how the race will end if we do get a caution flag.
Right. Strategy usually at this point of any Indianapolis 500 definitely is the talk of the broadcast because you don't know what's going to happen. You only can assume it's going to go green the way the field is spread out, but some weird moment can happen and definitely close that field right back up. And now we're not talking about strategy anymore. It definitely can happen. As Rambler twice in a row now has pitted exactly 8 laps after Mr. Rick Ravon. So I guess this strategy is set in stone, and drivers definitely pitting at different times definitely can be how they have a handle on their race cars. Again, you don't want to get your right front tire too worn out to where you're flirting with that right outside wall and corner exit. So definitely something these guys are watching for.
And then again, it's got to be obvious. I mean, it may happen, it may not happen. They're going to have caution flags coming up that may throw a wrench in the plans as well. So this race is definitely not decided. We have no idea what's going to happen right now. So like I said, yellows can completely just, ruin everybody's pit strategies.
Absolutely. This race is not over just yet. I will go ahead and bring up the fact that we still have 2 cars that have not pitted, and they both come in this time, actually, I think. As we have Cuthbertson coming down the pit lane. No, Riley stays out, so that's a different car behind him. As they, I don't know how to explain what we just saw there, but they go up on the jacks, finally up on the pneumatic jacks, they take service. Kyle Riley has not pitted just yet, so he's still running on the racetrack, and he might be trying that longer strategy. We'll have to wait and see. If he can go to about lap 100, I think he might have enough to go 1 pit stop less. So if we're looking at somebody who might be able to do it on fuel mileage, it'll be Kyle Riley after going up and over, flipping really early in this race. If he goes a couple more laps, he's going to pit this time. So it's very close. He's within range, but I think he's just a couple laps shy.
Yeah, after getting a great look of his floorboard about 80 laps ago, Kyle Riley, I think he's just trying whatever he can. Maybe he couldn't go anymore on fuel, possibly. Who knows? But definitely trying whatever he can to get right back into this event, or actually put himself into the event. We weren't necessarily talking about Kyle Riley before his incident. He was running at about the top 10 before he made his wild ride off of turn number 4. But other than that, he hasn't been a contender for the race lead. Now he's gotten up here and he's led a few laps, both stints now. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. As you said, he might be a couple laps short. We just have to see, because if you can continue to push it a lap or so every stint, then you make up those 2 laps. So who knows?
I'm also going to throw a name out there. It is your points leader and Long Beach winner, Matt Chubb. He started 29th, and he has meticulously found his way up into the top 5. He might be another driver we got to keep our eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed he was starting to run up the running order. He's into 5th. They're starting 29th. So another one of those regulars here in the International Online Racing League who didn't have a great qualifying effort, but is now finding his way towards the front of the field. That said, rounding halfway now, completing lap 100. There goes Rick Ravon across the bricks, and that completes 1/2, 250 miles here at Indianapolis for the IORL Indianapolis 500. Ravon continues to lead. Scottless Rambler currently 2nd place. Bobby Krug in 3rd. Zach Buchanan has fallen back to 4th place. Those two have actually swapped positions. Matt Chubb currently in 5th. Trey Shuttlesworth currently sitting in 6th. We've got Roswell Harlow in 7th. Franklin Ash in 8th. Seth Stridle in 9th. Spencer Madden currently riding 10th.
Right, the graphic shows Stephen Ellis, but Spencer Madden is sat 10th position. And how about the phenomenal run after getting caught up in that accident, being I believe the initiator of that big accident off of turn number 4. No blame, obviously, just made a mistake, and Frey like I know where to go. Making his way straight up the running order. Quite of a run for Mr. Spencer Madden. We should see him even climb up the order now. We're only halfway. As alluding to that, we're halfway. It has gone by fairly quick. Again, we've only had 3 cautions, and only 7 of those 102 laps that we ran, or 101 complete laps we've ran so far, have been at a reduced pace. These guys, they are knocking off these laps. They want to get this done and over with. Try not to strain their minds out too much longer.
And we are about to have a new leader. Rambler is now within 1/10 of a second. Now under that from Ravon. As he goes underneath him down into turn number 1, we have got a new leader. It is Rambler back up front here at the Indianapolis 500. This has got to be his race to lose right now. He is too good out there, is Rambler.
And these two are very common names on our Thursday night broadcast of the SRCA IndyCar World Series. That being said, over here at IORL, we're used to Rambler just walloping this field. We're not quite used to Ravon being in the talk. He's new to this series, and he's doing a great job of just holding his own. That said, Rambler continuing where he left off and is just driving away, literally driving away from Rick Ravon right now and the rest of the field. These two have 22 seconds over Bobby Krug, who is just now entering turn 3 as they enter turn 1. So opposite ends of the racetrack right now. Zach Buchanan, the next car behind them. Then it's Matt Chubb and Trey Shuttlesworth. Now, these guys are actually battling a bit. Chubb and Shuttlesworth. Shuttlesworth, the behind of the 2 cars. A little further back, you got, again, Roswell Harlow, Stridle. You got Ash, Madden, several other good drivers rounding out the top 10 that are so spaced out and so far back, there's not a whole lot happening. One driver I want to go back to, though, Kyle Riley. Talk about him maybe being close to maybe eliminating a pit stop. He's currently battling with that of, it looks like, is that Cuthbertson? That is Cuthbertson. So Kyle Cuthbertson on his nose as they draft around in 12th and 13th positions.
Yeah, interesting about this battle. They are a lap down. Not only that, they are the first 2 cars 1 lap down. An interesting battle there. Obviously, a caution coming out would help these guys in an advantage. It is wild how fast Rambler and Ravon are. That they are threatening to lap Spencer Madden, who is about 38 seconds off the pace. A lap around here is about 40 seconds, 41 seconds. So it is wild. Stephen Ellis also being threatened to go a lap down. There's 1 car separating Rambler and Ellis. Just crazy is how I can describe it. How much of a clinic these 2 drivers have put on the field. I mean, literally half a lap over the rest of the field is unheard of.
They're definitely setting a torrid pace right now, and you can tell not everybody has got what they have. They've figured out something. Those two drivers, Rambler and Ravon, they figured something out that nobody else has right now. In the times and the gaps that's showing right now. And also, their pit strategy as well. They've been the top two after every single pit cycle.
And that's just execution, really. I mean, these two have come in for several green flag pit stops now, and they haven't missed a beat. They've been perfect so far today. And I think the biggest thing is they were in front of that melee out of turn 4 about 70 laps ago now that took out so many good drivers, not necessarily out of the race, but moved them to the back of the pack. And I think that's really been the important defining moment so far in this race of splitting the field up into your two front runners all day long to that point. And even now, after 107, 108 laps, that just hasn't changed, and it's because of that incident, because you had guys like Spencer Madden, Cole Fralick, and others get involved in that wreck and have not been able to recover. We've seen Cole Fralick wreck out of this race, actually, without a caution even. Just get stuck in that inside wall, and iRacing didn't register that he was stopped because he was so far down the racetrack, didn't think that he was a hazard to the racetrack, so iRacing didn't throw that yellow.
Yeah. Again, how as we're alluding to right now, how big that incident looms large over this event. Imagine if these drivers didn't have that one faster pair, we could be sitting here with all the drivers on the lead lap, our only drivers remaining. So again, part of these two, they have their faster pairs, so they have the freedom to maybe go out and run what they can a little bit more than the rest of the field. Obviously, in their own time and their own situations that they see fit. Again, these two classes of the field, they know what they're doing for sure. But everybody else maybe having to bide their time and try to not get into an incident just to save what they have for another 92 laps.
I mean, definitely you can tell who's raced this best. Rambler, the defending champion, defending series champion. He knows his way around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He knows strategies. He knows exactly what to do. Rick Ravon, he's a history buff. He knows all about this place. He said he was an old school racer. So it doesn't surprise me that these two are up front, especially Rambler being the defending champion.
Yeah, definitely. Pull up a bit of a stat sheet that we've got provided to us, of course, by the IORL. Definitely got to thank Zach Buchanan for getting on that, actually. Just looking through, actually, their live standings. Actually, no, it's not point standings, so my bad. I thought I had live standings. I do not. But regardless, Scott Rambler coming off of that series champion. And last year's Indy 500, actually, he's just picking up right where he left off and doing a great job of it. Bobby Krug, I want to mention, currently sitting in third place, though. He might have something for these guys if we ever get a caution and catch the field back up. We don't have any stats as far as if he's won these things previous times. And I know Bobby Krug is actually familiar with the series, but this is only his second start in the Indy 500 here for the IORL. So a lot of rookies, I will say, also doing pretty well. We saw Cole Fralick set the pole. Rick Ravon, a rookie, actually second place, talked about possibly winning this thing. And just a bit of a note about him. As you mentioned, a big history buff, an old school guy. Literally the biggest Rick Mears fan is just our only note for Rick Ravon. Now, we know a lot about him from other things like the SRCA, but that's the only note we have on him from the league. Another couple of rookies would be Scott McClendon. We saw him do pretty well. Granted, he's racing a lap down. He's 18th right now, trying to hang on to a decent run. Warren Keith, we talked about him a lot. Oswald Harlow as well. He's doing pretty well. Harlow is sitting 8th place right now, just to the good side of leader Scott Rambler, staying on the lead lap for the moment. They're both from SKM McLaren, and they're staying on the lead lap right now. JB Motorsports driver Trevor Eggemeyer. There we go. That's a tricky name as it is, but I completely botched it. Sitting currently, let's see, where did he go on my list? He is actually, he's dead last. He didn't make the start of the race. Got another SKM McLaren machine, though, in Chris Progar. We saw him get mentioned by a few different people out in the chat. He is, he was doing all right for a little while. I'll try and track that guy back down. Progar is currently sitting in the 21st position, actually. The number 28 car, sitting 2 laps down. But he's still got time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we say, they've still got time. It's starting to look like they might not. So, and why I say that is we're only down to 9 cars on the lead lap. this can get to a point where if we have maybe like 7 or 6 cars remaining on the lead lap, and we get a late race caution, not everybody will be able to benefit. Either they'll have to pit, just to be able to make a decent restart out of it, and those guys will be racing themselves, everybody on the same lap. But for as far as the race win, there's if we continue the way we are, and if we even do get a caution, this race could be turned upside down for maybe the top 8.
As your leader now rolling up to the lap machine, the 22 car, James McGroarty. He's about to go another lap down. The pace the top 2 are running, Emerson, your thought that you just had there could come to fruition. There may not be enough cars left on the lead lap to make a difference in this race.
McClendon goes one more lap down, and that's going to be the 63 of Harlow going a lap down as well. As a little bit of close quarters out of turn 3, a couple of different cars on different laps. McClendon now goes, I think, 2 laps down, yep, and Harlow goes 1 lap down. So Rambler just working his way through the field right now, putting more and more cars a lap down, and that's going to help him out as time runs on. The next car that he will be approaching here shortly will be Spencer Madden. He's got about, a short shoot to go to catch up to that number 6. And this is just incredible pace. It really is out of these leaders. And you guys are not far off with that possibility of, if this thing stays green for long enough, there will be too many cars, I think, actually a lap down for some of these guys further back to actually have a chance to recover. They might be able to take advantage of maybe a wave around, but even under those circumstances, this is going to be tough to recover from if you're anybody behind maybe Roswell Harlow or Spencer Madden. If you're outside the top 10, your race, at least for the win, could be just about over. It depends on how many cautions we get from here, but we've been green for about 80 laps now.
Yeah, we're approaching that mark. Yeah, in about you just said 80 laps. So yeah, in about 20 laps, we'll be reaching half of the race in one green flag stint. It's wild. So right now we have 8 cars in the lead lap. Spencer Madden, he was one of the front runners earlier. He's still staying on pace. He is, this is really showing his pace, even though he's 8th position. Rambler has not been able to, he's caught a little bit. There's a reason why Spencer Madden's about to go a lap down, but Rambler has not been catching him at a pace that is necessarily threatening Madden going a lap down, at least for another 15 laps or so, but Slipstream and Draft could definitely change that. We're coming up to, we're coming up to with 84 laps to go. The last time these drivers passed the start finish line, and 8 cars on the lead lap. So we need quite a few cautions if we want to get most of this field back into play.
And Rambler, you can see he is quickly closing up on Madden's machine as that gap shortens up. So we may be having only 7 cars left on the lead lap. Andrew, man, he is just putting on a show right now as you see the gap close between Rambler and Madden as Madden looks to be the next car to go 1 lap in arrears.
Yeah, Spencer Madden, the next car on the list for Rambler. After Madden will be, looks like, Seth Stridle, as we've actually had an issue for Roswell Harlow. I think he has come into the pit lane, so expect some pit stops here shortly. We have gone about 30 laps since those stops, so, Rick Ray Vaughn actually in the pit lane as I say that. So Rick Ray Vaughn in for service, and it looks like these guys have their strategy figured out. Now, this is going to leave them about 20 laps shy of the finish. They're good to the end. They're not gonna, they're not in that kind of 5-lap area where you might be good, you might not be. They'll be good to the end after that pit stop, after 20 laps to go or so. I'm gonna turn my attention then back to Kyle Riley to see how long he goes on this run and if he tries to stretch fuel and go after that possible fuel strategy to maybe win the race. It's possible that it could work out for him.
Just one more quick note on Rick Ray Vaughn. That time I checked, last time he pit, he went 31 laps that stint. So I guess he ended up hearing you, Andrew, saying that you think he's pitting too early. So he went 3 laps longer this time around. I'm kidding, but 3 laps longer. So maybe this is Rick Ray Vaughn trying to realize, oh, I'm a little short. I might be trying to get back into this event. So definitely Rambler opening a gap on that run, and Rambler putting on a clinic himself. Rick Ray Vaughn may be trying to compensate for his early pit stops earlier in the race.
Well, running this strategy as long as we have, as long as they have, rather, nothing's going to change. He can't change it now. He's made his bet. He's got a lie in it.
Right, that's definitely the case. but maybe you extend it 3 laps. Maybe you can try as I say to try to regain the same strategy as Rambler. Rambler is only 10 laps out, so if you go 3 laps longer, the next 3 stints you essentially have caught up to him.
Now, Andrew and Emerson, how many laps did you say Rayvon went without pitting that time?
About 31.
Okay, so you add 31 to what was it, 118? That's 100. The pit strategies, if you could run 31 laps, that's going to take you right to the end of the race. Looking at all that math, we could have a wild finish.
It's going to be close. There's still going to be several laps shy, I think. Rambler is going to be interestingly close, not quite as far off, but I still don't think that anybody is going to be where they should be, like Kyle Riley. Because if these guys come in here in a couple of laps, say Rick Ravon pitted 3 laps ago, even if he goes 31, 31, and 31, 80 laps to go, it's not, the numbers aren't going to quite work out for him, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, I'm really looking at that 77 car as having a possible chance at playing the strategy right and coming away with a really good finish. So keep an eye on Kyle Riley. He's still on the racetrack, only run 22 laps on his tires so far, as opposed to, for example, Bobby Krug, who has run 28 laps. So 6-lap difference there, and that's a lot around Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2.5 miles each time by. So that's quite a distance in comparison that Kyle Riley is going further than the rest of the field. And I'm looking for him to be one of the only drivers to have a chance to eliminate a pit stop.
Definitely, and he's definitely going to have to eliminate a pit stop. He's making his bed now, because as it looks right now, if he doesn't eliminate a pit stop, he is in the negative right here. He's about 1.25 laps behind. That means Rambler could still possibly make a pit stop and still come out in front of Riley. So Riley better eliminate a pit stop, or this could turn badly for Riley, at least.
I mean, we've seen they've gone 31 laps without pitting. What is the most laps you can go without pitting, in your opinion? What's the red line as far as how many laps you can go? 35, maybe?
I think it's about 35, 34, and I was thinking about 35 earlier in the race. These guys have probably, I think at this point they've proven me wrong. I think it's about 33, 34. So Kyle Riley is going to want to push the issue in terms of saving fuel. He's going to want to leave the car in 6th gear. In fact, we'll even go on board with him so you can see what I'm talking about. Here out of the corner, he's either going to downshift or he won't. It looks like he is going to keep it in 6th for right now. And we could actually go to a driver that just pitted. That would be Matt Chubb. And we'll see if he downshifts. Because the popular thing to do, the fast thing to do in race pace is drop it down into 5th gear. We'll see if he does here, or if these guys are trying to run 6th and save a little bit of fuel. And still in 6th. I'm actually very surprised by that, that we're not seeing these guys drop down. Of course, this is a fixed setup. It may have been changed to where you can't run 5th. I'm not too sure. But we definitely should be seeing these guys drop into 5th gear. We'll see if maybe Rambler does it. So that's actually surprising to me, because I, of course, hadn't been watching the gear they were in. I'm very surprised they're staying in 6th.
Yeah, as you alluded to, the popular thing to do at any IndyCar oval is to drop it down a gear. Whether you're running 5th gear on the straights or 6th gear, you usually run 5th gear on like a shorter oval, like a Phoenix maybe. But you drop it down to 4th gear on those ovals, down to 5th gear here, so you can keep that speed up through the center of the corner. Either they're trying to save fuel by running in 6th gear, and that could be everybody trying to do that, just a weird coincidence it could be, or that, it's so long into this run and you're not really running around anybody. Maybe you're losing time by not downshifting, but you are keeping that car planted. You're not risking carrying more speed through the center of the corner and risking making love to that outside wall.
You're looking at the screen here, the ticker. We mentioned we may not have any cars left on the lead lap. We are down to 2 cars on the lead lap, and Rick Ravon 33 seconds behind your leader Rambler, who is setting a torrid pace here at the Indianapolis 500, as we are at lap 126. As your leader now rolls into pit lane.
So the pit stop going to be underway here momentarily for Scout List Rambler. Looks like he'll have 2 to go to the end of the race, as will most of the field. My eyes then are going to turn back to the Kyle Riley situation. Now, it's worth bringing up, Kyle Riley, as it sorts out, is some 16.5 seconds behind Rick Ravon. So what you were mentioning there, Emerson, is with the pace that these guys are running, Kyle Riley may just be might just be out of it regardless. Oh, caution!
Caution is out.
Everything I just said,
my
out the window.
goodness.
Everything in the last 100 laps out the window.
Now, was Rambler caught on pit lane or when the yellow came out?
Oh, the accident that brought out the caution. Rambler, he was on pit lane when the caution came out, but I think he might have gone out in front of Ravon. As we look at a replay here of Doug
wow.
Oh, my goodness. It's very reminiscent of a Scott Dixon accident here a couple years back.
I believe that is that the 40 of Denise? Yes, it is. Doug Denise.
Yeah, Denice. Doug Denice, yep. So issues here for Doug Denice out of turn 1. Just pops the fence and then just pile drives the inside wall. Now, you mentioned Rambler being down the pit lane when this happens. This shouldn't affect him too badly. In fact, he's going to maintain the race lead, considering the caution came out while he was down there. Since he was already in pit lane and starting service, that's only going to benefit him, and he's going to hold on to the race lead and won't even lose it in that cycle to Rick Ravon like we've been seeing. So everything goes out the window. Now, if you're one of these drivers, you've got to try and push the issue to make sure you run enough laps to go to the end of the race on one stop. Because this caution is going to change things up. And what it's going to do is it's coming out right at the 130 mark. And from 130, it's 35 and 35 to the end. We're going to be a couple laps past that. It's about 34, 33 to the end probably when these guys go back racing. And you're going to have to come in and top off right here. You cannot risk being short. If you're anybody in this field, you have to come in and top off in case we have another 70-lap run to the green or to the end of the race. That said, you could, if you're further back in the field, say if you are, well, I shouldn't even say that because we only have 8 cars even on the lead lap. But if you're one of these lap down cars that is going to get the wave around, you might not be completely out of it because if we have a caution in 10 laps or so, you might still be back in this race. But I think if you're on the lead lap, you have to come in and pit in case this thing goes green to the end. That's what we're going to see. So this is going to help Kyle Riley, actually, because he's on the lead lap again. Kyle Cuthbertson as well. So those drivers who stayed out, they just saved their races.
Right. I've been like ecstatic to get my my chance on the mic. I have been pushing my press to talk rapidly the past 30 seconds or so to mention that, yeah, Kyle Riley just got into this race. Now, it's going to throw the strategy out the window because now you're going to have to run the exact same strategy or similar strategy to Rambler and Ravon. But Kyle Riley now just implanted himself into the conversation.
And everybody, I don't know who's what the strategies are going to be now. It's like you said, everything just got thrown out the window. We have a brand new race on our hands right now, so we're going to see exactly just how strong Rambler is. He's got everybody now breathing down his neck right now. It's going to be a brand new race, Andrew.
Absolutely, and since we have a brand new race, we have a couple of new names towards the top of your field. We actually want to go ahead and grab one right now. Kyle Cuthbertson. I've said it pretty well the last 130 laps, but I messed it up right there. Do you have a copy?
Oh, I got you.
All right, well, Kyle, that caution pretty much saves your race, and you're in the same boat, really, as Kyle Riley, as that caution saves you guys. Since you had stayed out and got back on to the lead lap, how does this change the next 70 laps for you?
Well, the way I see it, we're still about 10 laps short. The last pit would be on 190, I believe, so I'm just been trying to save fuel here and pit as late as I can so that I can hopefully get rid of an extra pit stop that these guys might have to take. But yeah, this yellow definitely saves us. That last stint was not good at all for us because did not have any help in the draft and did not save nearly as much fuel as I'd want. But yeah, I mean, we're still in it.
Yeah, so we've been talking about pit strategy for the last 100 laps, and we were under the impression you could go a little past 30 laps. We've only seen Kyle Riley go about 31, 32. What's your number? Because I thought it was closer to 35, but you guys are proving it's a little bit lower.
I actually surprised myself the stint before. I don't even know the exact number, but I think it went from 65 to like 98, something like that, until I absolutely had to pit. You know, I've just been trying to keep the number between 4.5 to 4.7 miles per gallon. That's what I've been just trying to do here. Just trying to pit as late as I can, and yeah, it's tend to worked out okay so far.
Well, I'll give you a bit of a tidbit from myself. I'd say go ahead and put that car in 6th gear real quick. Just save as much fuel as you can because you are dangerously close. The rest of the field is dangerously close going to the end here. So if I can give you any bit of a little bit of thinking here, like a crew chief, try and save everything you can because you're right on the cusp of doing it. That said, though, as we get ready for 70 laps to go, who do you have to shout out today?
All right, man. Lights are back on the page. We're not going green this time. We are not
Racing,
going green.
to my YouTube channel, Race Nation TV. Go subscribe, and then shout out to Cole Freilich. Shame what happened to him earlier. He's really what got me into this league, and yeah, he's been a big help. Kind of a shame what happened earlier.
Well, Kyle, we appreciate your time, and hopefully you have a good run to the end here.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And so that's Kyle Cuthbertson, running currently in the 4th position behind Kyle Riley, Rick Ravon, and Bobby Krug, who has assumed your race lead. Scottless Rambler back to 10th place, and that's certainly going to shake things up as well.
It definitely will be, as I have the race control chat going up, and everybody's getting waved. Not everybody, but many drivers getting waved around the pace car. So we could have a whole new race here. We have Trey Shuttlesworth, Spencer Madden, Joey Newsel. We've had Bruno Canero. We've had Corey Rexford waved around the pace car. So those names back into contention, provided they were only 1 lap down. So definitely something to keep track of here, as they did extend the yellow another lap because drivers were getting wave arounds and drivers getting black flags clear. So the race control admins have been hard at work to make this race right.
So as I mentioned, it's going to be a brand new race. We have got, let's see, lap 131 in the books now, so it's going to be hard to see. I'm trying to look where Rambler's at. He is back in the 12th position. How long, Andrew, do you think it's going to take him to get back up front?
That's a good question. I don't think it'll be too long. That said, you have to pace yourself if you're Scottless Rambler because, of course, nobody's going to cut you a break. And I think he may have sped on the pit lane or something because he dropped from 10th to 12th right there. I wonder if he's got a penalty holding him back. In fact, I can try and look for something here to see if he might have had something.
He had it cleared.
I'm sorry?
He had it cleared if he did have one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing a black flag for Scott's name. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting because he was in 10th and is now 12th. So maybe just some cars cycling out. Not totally sure on that. But regardless, Scottless Rambler, one of the best cars all race, if not the best, and is now 12th place for this restart. Coming to the green flag, though, it's going to be Bobby Krug with the lead. Rick Ravon on his gearbox. And you got Kyle Riley, Kyle Cuthbertson, and Matt Chubb, your top 5. Coming to the green flag. 131 laps now in the books. About 69 to go.
Very nice indeed. Bobby Krug able to get a nice run into turn number 1, but don't look too soon. Rick Ravon is there, and we have seen this all day. If you do not get a good gap on Rick Ravon, he is going to absolutely attack you on this back straightaway. And let's just watch this right here. Slipstreaming down the backstretch. Krug very defensive on the inside, but Rick Ravon just looking to go around the outside. Krug had slightly worn out tires and clear to the race lead around the outside entering turn 3.
Rick Ravon back up front where he was earlier on in this race, as he was one of the 2 drivers that have been just one of the class acts of this event. As he puts here comes Krug now, trying to look back to the inside. He's going to do it down the front straightaway, trying to get that slingshot around Ravon. It was Krug at the line there. We're going to see as the battle rolls into turn number 1. It is going to be Krug back underneath Ravon. Ravon back to the outside as they go through the short chute. Still side by side, Andrew, out of turn number 2.
Yeah, Krug doesn't have too many laps on his tires. That said, it's definitely, I think, going to hold him back a tiny bit in this battle, but he's not letting anything weigh him down. Side-by-side drag race down the back straightaway to turn 3. Ravon on the outside, Krug on the bottom side, and they go side-by-side onto turn 3 now as well. Krug is going to fall in behind the gearbox of Ravon. Ravon past him on the outside line, going to take the lead back. Kyle Riley now in the picture. He's 3rd. Cuthbertson in 4th. And Matt Chubb not too far back. A big crossover there from Bobby Krug back down to the inside.
Yeah, no time to lay over now. No time to not be aggressive. It is race time. Who knows what the outcome of this restart may hold? We just had over 100 lap green flag run. This could have been the final restart. So this means everything. Kyle Riley has an amazing seat of this battle right here, but don't look too soon. We have Kyle Culbertson in this train as well as we ride on board with Kyle Riley.
And I love it when they get grouped back together under green flag conditions. We're on board with Kyle Riley. He's got Krug in front of him, Cuthbertson behind him as they roll down the front straightaway. As the top 4, top 5, top 6 cars now running single file down the front straightaway, snaking themselves along down into turn number 1. Krug a 1/10 of a second behind your leader, Ravon. Kyle Riley 2/10 back behind Krug as Cuthbertson and Chubb rounding out the top 5. Then Madden, Shuttlesworth, Stridle, Ellis, and Fashy rounding out the top 10.
So a very stout top 10 at this point in the race, even with names like Cole Fralick and Spencer Madden now out of this thing. Well, actually, Spencer Madden should still be in the field. I'm looking for the number 6. And...
6.
Oh, I completely skipped over him. He is literally sitting 6th place. My bad, Spencer, when you go back and watch this thing later on. That said, still a really good top 10 racing this one out. You can see Rick Ravon, Bobby Krug, and others snaking down the front straightaway. And that is Bobby Krug still tucked up behind Ravon. And those old tires, I think, are definitely holding him back at this point. He's got 6, 7 more laps on those things than the rest of the guys that he's racing. But if you go back to guys like Spencer Madden, who stayed out and got the wave around right there to get back on the lead lap, these guys are all on old tires as well. Same age as about Bobby Krug, about 16 laps, 13 laps in there as well. You got Trey Shuttlesworth, Seth Stridle racing actually down the back straightaway, and Stridle going to go on by for 7th.
So back to, as we just alluded to, tire, and Rambler has received throughput, so that is day done for the 57, at least now. But I was about to just talk about Kyle Riley and how he has been great at, extending that fuel tank and seeing how long he can go. With him, if he was able to try to cut out a pit stop or have to make his final pit stop a lot shorter than the drivers he's competing about, don't look too soon and don't count out that 77.
Yeah, Riley's got a good run going right here as we are back on board with Mr. Riley in that 3rd position. He is currently sitting 4/10 of a second behind Krug in that 2nd spot, and he's got 2/10 of a second himself over Cuthbertson. Everybody seems to be running in place right now. We had a little bit of a good action there coming out of the yellow flag. As there you see Ravon diving deep down inside down the front straightaway, trying to break that draft between he and Krug. Ravon still out front, trying to look back through the cycle to see where Rambler is, as he has dropped way back. I don't see him anywhere.
Yeah, that's what Emerson mentioned. He has lost connection to the service and is now 3 laps down, and that's day done, realistically. You can't come back from 3 laps down, I don't think, on lap 140.
How does that make you feel, Andy? You've raced before. How does that make you feel, being the dominant car, then all of a sudden losing connection to the race? How many cuss words are you saying right now?
A lot, and we'll just leave it at that. I mean, that's heartbreaking. If you're Scott List Rambler, and I don't even know how to put that in words. He's just reconnected to TeamSpeak actually, so getting back into communications with all the drivers that he's no longer with, unfortunately, and so he's probably going to reconnect and try to salvage what he can for points. But as far as winning the Indianapolis 500 going back to back, it's not going to happen, unfortunately, for Scott List Ramblers. So now we turn our eyes back to Rick Ravon, who has led most of this race. Well, I say most of this race. He's traded off, really, with my brain just stopped, with Scott List Rambler. I think about even laps led. We'll have to go back and see at the end of the race and check those numbers, but I don't know if anybody can beat him. He's just been so good all day long, and he really knows these Indy cars inside and out. And, I mean, Bobby Krug is there, but he's on older tires. Can't really race quite as hard. Kyle Riley, the next car on good tires, he's, let's see, 2 seconds back, or no, a second and a half back of Rick Ravon. So I don't know if really anything can be done about that 5 car.
Yeah, Rambler has just re-entered his car, and he is right now sat 21st position, 5 laps off the pace. That is very, very sad. But yeah, this just opened the door wide open for Rick Ravon, as it wasn't already. He clearly, with Rambler being deeper in traffic, it was going to be hard for him to make it out there anyhow. But now Rick Ravon, it's one less obstacle for Rick Ravon. Right now it's like Kyle Riley, drivers who are on Riley strategy, and Spencer Madden, who's in the top 5. But even at that, it is it's looking very pretty for Rick Ray Vaughn. Should we continue the way we are?
You got to wonder what Rick Ravon was thinking when he found out that Rambler's server issues was happening. Do you think he was flashing a smile underneath that helmet?
I would definitely say so at this point. I mean, that's your main competition now out of this thing. But at the same time, Rick is a guy that wants to battle it out, and if he comes home second place, oh well. So that's certainly going to be tugging at him a little bit. Is you don't want to win it because the other guy just can't be there. You want to be able to race it out as a driver, as a racer, and that's certainly, I think he's going to be split if he ends up bringing this one home. That said, he still has over a quarter of the race to go to bring it home. So he's not done, as Scottless Rambler, fastest on the speed charts of 40.541. So seeing red right now, I think, and really has nobody to be mad at or anything. Just unfortunately connection issues going to sideline. Well, I shouldn't say sideline because he's back on the racetrack. Going to hold him back from winning this one.
Yeah, coming out with a vengeance. Fastest lap of the race right there. I do believe that is... no, second fastest lap of the race. I just looked at... no, never mind. That was fastest. I can read numbers. Anyway, yeah, Rick Ray Vaughn, he hasn't been able to open up the gap we thought he would open up on Bobby Krug. Now, it's partially due to slipstream, but Krug is on older tires, and Rick Ray Vaughn has been able to gap nearly everybody else. So this is very interesting to see that Krug is able to stay with Rick Ray Vaughn.
Now, with Rambler back onto the racetrack, do you think right now he's in, whatever mode right now? I'm just going to run the wheels off of it and see what happens?
Absolutely, and he should be good to go to the end of the race. So he's gonna come in one time, and then he's good from there. The rest of these guys, though, are looking at either a two-stop or a one-stop situation. So Rambler's just gonna run this thing out. If he gets tired of it, he gets tired of it. But I think as far as points go, he wants to back himself up with another championship. He's the reigning champion here in the IORL from season 10, now in season 11. He's doing really well for himself, just unfortunately connection issues going to sideline him today, but he still wants to salvage what he can as far as the championship run goes. So I'm sure he'll continue on and continue seeing what he can do. It's just a matter of if he gets bored or not. That said, back to the whole pit strategy talk, this is going to be interesting to see what these guys do. Of course, they're close. They're very, very close. And I really hope some of these guys attempt to do it on just one stop. Even if they run out, I'd like to see the attempt made, because you are so close to stretching it just the extra little bit that you need. It's not very much. It's only a couple of laps. But that is 2.5 miles each time by. So we'll see what these guys try and do.
It's one thing, like, you have to think, does Riley continue on the strategy of extending the amount of laps he's able to do on that fuel tank and try to go for the race win? Or do you kind of ride where you are and try to salvage, right now, a podium finish and, a top 5 if things shake up? It's very, very interesting decision that Riley has to make here.
Maybe I'm a competitive person. I mean, if I raced, I'd be one of those, hey, I'm going to the front, let's win this thing, and let's get the money, let's get the paycheck and go home. That's just my way of thinking, but I understand you got to be careful, you got to be calculated with your pit stops, and you got to manage tires. So that's why I'm sitting here behind the mic and not racing.
Well, I think this is one race that you just have to approach in a well thought out way. Absolutely, you want to go out there and you want to race for first, but at the same time, you got to take a step back under these long green flag runs, especially down these long straightaways, and figure out how you're going to play the strategy card. And right now, I think Kyle Riley's in the catbird seat to try and attempt it. I was talking about the possibility of him doing it 50 laps ago when he was looking at being a lap down because he was slower. But now, even if he is a little bit slower and loses some time to Rick Ray Vaughn and Bobby Krug, he's so close to doing it that he might have the best opportunity to win this race for anybody not named Rick Ray Vaughn. It's also worth mentioning Bobby Krug has to pit probably 2 times here to the end of the race. So I don't see him going to the end on one stop. He, of course, stayed out under that last yellow, got the race lead to start things back off. I don't think he can do it.
Yeah, Rick Ray Vaughn just entered some heavy lap traffic. His drivers, I believe, who got wave rounds under that caution, pitting now because they needed to. They were hoping for a quick yellow to follow it, but that did not come to fruition. Yeah, Rick Ray Vaughn just entered a pack of like 4 or 5 lap cars. I think he's worked his way around all of them, except, how about, I believe this is the 37 McClendon looking back to the inside. Now, this is not for position, obviously. This is a lap car trying to get back onto, what, this would be 1 lap down, I believe. Yeah, 1 lap down. He was at the very tail end of, nearly about to go 2 laps down. So McClendon just trying to stay 1 lap down, and that's easily, going to help with the fresher tires. Rick Ray Vaughn could use this as slipstream to try to gap everybody else.
See, I must be seeing something different. I've got a 22 on my screen. And I don't know. I don't see a 37 there.
It's
Is
the
that
same
something
car.
I'm not?
He's scored as the 37. His paint scheme shows the number 22.
I got you. All right, now I have to make that note here because I called him McGroarty earlier because that's the 22 that I've got. But he's having a tough time getting around him, though. That may be an issue.
Yeah, I don't think Rick is trying to pass him right now. I think Rick is doing exactly what Emerson just said. Whether he's trying to gap the field or trying to save fuel, right now I think Rick Ray Vaughn is comfortable sitting in that the draft and the dirty air of the number 22, 37, whichever it may be, of Scott McClendon. So definitely, as we actually were 1 lap shy of being a quarter of the way to the end of the race, so 3/4 of the way through, I think Rick Ray Vaughn is kind of just setting himself up to try and walk away from Bobby Krug. We flash back to Krug's on board, and you can see the gap right there. That car right in front of Krug is your race leader. Rick Ray Vaughn that's one of the proximity racing machines. I'm not sure. Is that Trey Patton that might have just passed him? No, that was not Trey Patton. So that's a different proximity racing car that just went back on by the number 51 of Krug.
So back about Rick Ray Vaughn, this is about to be game time. Now we are exactly 20 laps after that caution. Hopefully these guys were saving fuel under that caution, because you're going to need to go at least 10 laps to at least go another full stint and then pit at 190 and, take maybe a splash of fuel on right side. Or, well, I guess actually all 4 tires, my bad. You can't take just one side tires. But Rick Ray Vaughn getting close to that number, or everybody trying to run the car empty here in about 10 laps time, we should be seeing pit stops.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that exact same thing come about lap 160. I think you're going to see wholesale pit stops and everybody running in, and I think after that it is just who's going to run out first. That's my opinion. I don't think we're going to see any more pit stops before the end of the race.
Well, I'll be brutally honest as always, at least when it comes to just strategy. If you pit at 160, you're hurting yourself. You're willingly losing a lot of time on the racetrack because you're running those tires all the way out, at least further than they need to go. If you're not going to go for that one-stop strategy, you may as well come in now almost, maybe in just a couple of laps, because you're going to run less time on older tires, and you're actually going to run faster to the end of the race, because if you're already going to have to pit twice, there's no sense in running it out, and then only having 10 laps or so, even less, to the end of the race. You may as well extend that time at the end of the race that you have good tires, and shorten up the time now and in about 30 laps when you have older tires. So if you're committed to only running about 30 laps or so, if you're committed to a 2-stop strategy to the end, I think you have to come in almost right now.
That is that is absolutely correct. I didn't even think of that. Right, if you are making a 2-stop strategy and that is the plan from the restart, you maximize the tire life you can get. That is completely right. I didn't even think of that. So this has to be Rick Ray Vaughn trying to save fuel, because no way he would not take that into account.
Now, even him saving fuel like this, he has still got over a second lead. Do you think Krug or Chubb or all of them, they're trying to save fuel as well? Because their gaps are remaining the same as well.
I don't think so. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Rick Ray Vaughn is trying to save fuel. I don't think Krug and Chubb are trying to save fuel. From talking to Cuthbertson, it didn't sound like these guys were really even thinking about the possibility of a one-stop strategy. That's why I tried to mention it to him. Try to have somebody go for the strategy card, because if everybody just goes and plays it safe with a 2-stop strategy, nobody's trying to win this race really, and you're letting Rick Ray Vaughn win. If you try that one-stop strategy, try to do something different. It's just like setting somebody up for a pass. You can't run directly behind somebody and expect to pass them. You have to do something different to go on by them and actually seeing the proximity car. I'm not sure who that is. I think possibly it's Trey Shuttlesworth. It is. So he's trying to fight to stay on the lead lap lead lap right now with Rick Ray Vaughn. My point being, you have to try something different, especially if you're somebody mired in the mid-pack of the top 10. If you're Spencer Madden, well, actually, no, he's got older tires, so my bad, and he actually just pitted. But if you're Seth Streetel, if you're Kyle Cuthbertson, Kyle Riley, I think you have to go for that one-stop strategy. You have to.
Back on the retirements, as I guess that's a self-proclaimed job that I've given myself. We're down to 21 cars running, 21st place being number 57, a Scottless Rambler, 5 laps off the pace. Everybody after him is retired from the event.
I figured we'd have... I was predicting about 21 cars remaining on the racetrack. So far we're sitting there. Attrition's not been, the name of the game so far. Only 3 or 4 cautions so far. That's a lot less than what I thought we were going to have, as we see some cars rolling through pit lane right now, as 4 cautions for 10 laps. 19 lead changes now, as cars now rolling through the pit area.
That's Krug and Straddle down the pit lane. We've had Madden, Shuttlesworth, Ellis, Ash, Carnero, and Keith all come down the pit lane. Buchanan's 1 lap down, but is not pitted just yet. Newsel has pitted. McClendon is pitted. Meebach is not pitted. Progar has pitted. Denice has not pitted. And then Harlow and Patton both just pitted. And Rambler, of course, well, we know what Rambler's doing right now, just trying to set hot laps. But certainly interesting that these guys aren't trying that one-stop strategy. I think if you're going to try and beat Rick Ray Vaughn, if you want to win this race, you have to. And we'll see if Rick Ray Vaughn actually was trying to save fuel. He may have been. I could have been completely wrong, considering he's still running and a lot of these guys are coming in. You'd think if he starts to see a short pit that he's concerned about, you'd think he would follow them in to try and cover himself. But Matt Chubb not on the pit lane as well. The 2 Kyles left on the racetrack with Rick Ray Vaughn have not pitted. We'll see what those guys do. We'll see if Cuthbertson took my advice and just tried to run this thing out.
At this point, if it is a strategy event, you absolutely cannot worry about whatever cars do around you. I think this could, as you said, this could be him saving fuel. We just have to see when he comes in. I was going to say something else and I brain farted.
Well, he's not coming in this lap, that's for sure, as Cuthbertson still rolls down the front straightaway as one of those lap cars go around him. So that's not a battle for position as well. So Cuthbertson currently sitting comfortably in second in that 7th spot. 3 seconds behind him is a Kyle Riley. Krug falls back out of the pit area into the 5th spot as we take a look at Riley's machine all by his lonesome. They're in 3rd, a good 25 seconds ahead of Krug in the 4th spot.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, I'm going to reiterate what I said. Considering you're running on old tires right now and you're losing time to those drivers that just pitted, if you're still on the racetrack and have not pitted, you have to try and go for this one-stop strategy. Now, if Rick Ray Vaughn is going for that, I will be impressed, because I would usually think that the race leader would play it safe and not try to chance fuel strategy. He might be going for it. If he does, I will be very impressed. That said, caution comes out. It's over. Kyle Cuthbertson and the driver involved. We got the number 20 involved as well as Carnero. A couple of cars wadded up on the bottom side of turn number 2. Everything goes out the window, and now you can't make it to the end from this yellow, I don't think.
Cuthbertson, turn 1, he just got old tires on the outside of some lap cars there, and just caught the outside wall, came down the track, and away she went. Wow, what an impact. That inside barrier in turn 2 has been catching quite the cars down there. We were talking to Cole earlier this week, and I think Cole alluded to that this race was going to have a lot of cautions in it. Obviously, he's no longer in the event, but only having this will be our 5th caution, the 40 laps remaining, has been very, very nice. Now, 40 laps remaining. Cautions breed cautions is a good old motorsport saying, and it's getting down to the nitty gritty. Strategy goes out the window. This is pretty much a made bet for a wild finish to the end.
That was a tough break for Carnero there. He was the little victim of circumstance there on Cuthbertson's mishap, so that kind of ruined Carnero's day as well.
Yeah, Carnero just was riding around trying to get to the end of the race and nowhere to go. So What will intrigue me is what these drivers choose to do under this caution flag, considering they can come in and top off, but I don't think it's going to help them. I don't think topping off right now is really going to matter in the grand scheme of things. You can't go from here to the end easily. I mean, you're going to have to run really well off pace and really save a lot of fuel to make it from here to the end of the race on this tank of fuel if you do come in right here. So Rick Ray Vaughn's going to come on down and get those tires. Kyle Riley going to follow suit. We'll see what Bobby Krug does. Yep, he's pitting. Spencer Madden going to go ahead and pit. Matt Schubb stays out for now. He's going to go ahead and stay out. We're going to have Trey Shuttlesworth stay on the racetrack. No, he's coming in. So most of the field looking like they want to come in and get service. And I can't necessarily blame them, but I almost feel like this is an unnecessary pit stop.
Well, let's hold on. Let's hold on right there. We are on lap 162. Let's also not forget the fact that this caution, as we saw last caution, had a lot of wave rounds, the penalties cleared. We could go another 2 or 3 laps under caution, and then we're sitting with a 36 or 35 lap run even to the end. It's a long shot, but then it becomes a very heavy fuel saving run, and if we get another caution, that goes out the window. But the caution period length could help try to make this a one stint.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. I was doing the math as we spoke. I was going to say if we went green here in the next couple of laps, it's going to take us to about 198 or 199. And I think if you play it right, you can stretch it out to 36 or 37 laps. So it could be a one-stop race, Andrew. I think we're right.
It's going to be very close. And, we were talking about 35 is the max. And then it shortened up to about 33 based on the way these guys were racing. You might still be able to get 35, but I'm not so sure about 36, 37 laps. That's really cutting it close. It really depends on what they do under this caution. That said, though, we are going to step away and give ourselves a little bit of a break. We'll be right back here in just a moment after a quick message from iRacing. We welcome you back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Looking at Joey Newsel's machine, he was, I think, accidentally waved around the field one too many times, but that scoring issue has since been sorted, and we are ready to re-rack him, restack him, and go back green flag racing with about 35 laps to go, 36 actually, when we cross the start-finish line. It's ever so close to being a good to the end on fuel. It's going to be really tight, but I think these caution laps, you are still using fuel. I think if you were to exit the pit lane right now, you might have enough. I'm not so sure you can do it if you pitted a couple laps to go under caution. We'll see what these guys can do. Coming back to the green flag, Matt Chubb in control, Rick Ravon in second place, and it's Kyle Riley, Bobby Krug, and Spencer Madden, your top five, as we go back green flag racing from Indianapolis for the IORL Indianapolis 500.
Matt Chubb gets an amazing start there, but just like that, he could not gap Rick Ravon enough, and we're going to see it one more time on the back straightaway unless Matt Chubb can have some great defense on the back stretch here. Rick Ravon, look for this attack here.
I believe you're going to see the snake down the back straightaway. Indeed you do. There they go. Down to the left, back to the right. It's Chubb, Ravon, and Riley, your top three. Then Krug and Madden. Rounding out the top five is Ravon. Now moves to the inside of Chubb into turn number 3. You've got a new leader. It's Rick Ravon. Back to the point here on lap 165.
And he made it look ever so easy. Now Chubb has a mirror full of Kyle Riley, who's got a mirror full of Bobby Krug looking to the inside of Riley down the front straightaway. They snake down the bottom of the front stretch, and no pass for the lead just yet. Chubb has to sit behind Ravon for just a little bit longer. But now, that was a big pass there. A big send from Krug. He's going to go right on by Kyle Riley. Now Spencer Madden is back in the fight. We talked about him so much at the start of the show. He has since dropped out of things until about now. He was a lap down there for a while. Got the wave around the previous caution. This past caution gets back on cycle with your leaders and is back in this fight. 5th place for Spencer Madden right now.
That is a true testament of just biding your time, letting the race come to you, even if you have a mistake. Obviously, the big incident there coming off of turn 4 about 130 laps ago, quite a ways back, but 140 laps later, back in this thing. Welcome back to the top 5, Spencer Madden. We have 12 cars on the lead lap.
Bobby Krug tried to make a move to the inside of Chubb for the second spot, had to back out a little bit or else he was going to wipe both of those cars out and ruin a good day for both of them as they snake down the back straightaway into turn number 3. Ravon, Chubb, and Krug. Yeah, see if Krug makes a look to the inside. Nope, he'll shuffle back into line as top 5 remains the same. Ravon, Chubb, Krug, Riley, and Madden.
These two right here in second and third continue to run single file. And these are a couple of names that have been around the IORL for a while. Matt Chubb and Bobby Krug. It's good to see them doing so well today. Krug going to go to the inside of Chubb, though, and going to make that pass for second place. Chubb on those older tires compared to the rest of the field. He's moving in the wrong direction, and it's go time at this point. No give and take. It's all just take for all these drivers. Actually, a bobble out of the corner for Krug. That sends Chubb to the inside lane for a moment, but they get it sorted out. Bit of a scare there as further back, actually, Spencer Madden has company. He's lost a couple of spots. Now Trace Shuttlesworth into 5th place and Seth Stridle up and around the number 6 car of Spencer Madden. That is for 6th. Madden drops back to 7th, and it's Ellis, Ash, and Warren Keith rounding out your top 10.
Right, you have to think Matt Chubb definitely is banking on these guys not being able to make it to the end here. He's banking that they're going to make it one more stop because obviously he didn't pit and he's going to have to make one stop as well. So if you can't make it, whoa, wow, look at that pit re-entry onto the track. Rick Ravon, just the timing, that's Rambler. Wow, the irony there.
Yeah, that is crazy. And as fast as Rambler is, this is going to throw a wrench into the plans here because Ravon has now got Rambler behind him, and Rambler is the fastest car on the racetrack, and that's got to absolutely just irk that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place cars of Krug, Chubb, and Riley, thinking, hey, get out of the way.
Oh, absolutely. If you're Bobby Krug right now in 2nd place, you need that 57 to move because that's just more dirty air on your front wing, taking front downforce away. And there you go, again, washing up the racetrack because of aero push. So Bobby Krug needs the 57 of Rambler to get out of the way, but I don't think he's going to. A fight for, well, would have been the lead about 100 laps ago. Rambler goes down the inside, and now Rick Ravon, I think, is a little annoyed with that 57 car.
He can be, but at the same time, Rambler does have fresher tires. Obviously he's just pitting when he needs to. Granted, this is the fight for the race lead. Maybe he should move over, but obviously not required to. And here we have a great battle for the lead. And maybe Rambler just toying with Ravon a little bit. Seeing just how good are you? Can you deal with a lap car and still hold on to the lead of this race? Which I think the added draft, the slipstream, is adding on to Rick Ravon's gap as they go side by side again, not for position, with Rambler being Rambler's only 1 lap down on my scoring. He's at 15th. So hold the phone. Rambler may be trying to get back into this one with a couple yellow flags working his way.
Yeah, they're racing like they're racing for the lead right now, and that is allowing Krug to close in on Ravon, your leader. You got to wonder if Ravon's getting annoyed right now with Rambler.
Absolutely. I would think so, because that's hurting Rick's lead over the rest of the field, and it was almost a second. It's now about a third of a second back to Bobby Krug. So definitely the 57 hindering the 5's progress, and I don't understand it personally. If you're Scottless Rambler, I don't know why you'd go out and do this. Racing to keep your race alive is one thing, but toying with the leaders like this just doesn't need to happen when you're coming down inside of 30 laps to go. I don't quite understand it.
I get it. The timing is off. This shouldn't be happening at this time in the race. But Rambler, the only thing I can put to it, because they've raced each other with quite a lot of respect earlier in this race. I don't think this is anything personal. I think he is racing for his race, trying to stay 1 lap down, because if he gets 2 cautions, he is back in this race. So he is just trying to bank that, stuff happens later in this race that, causes the intensity to ramp up and bring some yellows into play, and he's trying to stay 1 lap down.
Well, that slipstream right there, that pulled Ravon back ahead of Krug by about 0.6 of a second. So the draft right there, that's kind of helping Ravon out a little bit. But Ravon's wanting Rambler to, hey, just get out of my way and let me go. I'm leading this race right now. Krug and Chubb back there in second and third, watching this happening, are probably wondering, what if they take each other out?
That would certainly help them both, as Bobby Krug sitting in second place, kind of just watching it all happen, as you said, out the arrow screen there. We'll see if those guys try to capitalize on anything or if they just try to save some fuel. It's worth mentioning, though, that Trey Shuttlesworth now battling. Actually, no, he's through to 4th place. That is a lap car battling him. I believe McClendon going on by on the bottom side. Kyle Riley has fallen back to 5th, so he lost that spot to the 19 of Trey Shuttlesworth. As we actually have a battle for the lead shaping up. Rick Ravon is getting hunted down by Bobby Krug with help from Rambler. Oh, to block! Again, I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, before that block, I was about to say maybe Rick Ravon won't be too mad if he can stay behind Rambler and maybe save some fuel, as you alluded to. That would definitely help out with trying to make it to the end. But that block, now things are starting to ramp up, and this may be a bull seeing red right here soon.
Yeah, Krug is catching up to Ravon as we speak, but now he's pulling away just a little bit. Is Ravon it looks like Ravon's kind of let Rambler pull away just a little bit because he was impeding his progress a lot, and it looks like he's just pull away so he can catch back up to him in that draft, and that in turn allows him to pull away from Krug a little bit.
So Scottless Rambler may be realistically out of the possibility to win for now, but he's still making his impact on this race, and he's making sure that people know his name right now. He won this race last year. He won last season's championship, and right now is certainly making his imprint on this race. He's getting in the way right now of Rick Ravon and impeding his progress. That said, Ravon's starting to open a gap back up over Bobby Krug and Matt Chubb. They start to fall back just a little bit, as Kyle Riley has actually lost 5th spot to Seth Straddle. So you wonder maybe if Riley is actually now starting to save a little bit of fuel. He's got all kinds of company, though. Franklin Ash and Warren Keith all over him.
Yeah, Riley dropping on the running order. Warren Keith either blinking, he was grayed out on my timing and scoring for a split second. I believe he's just blinking. But Rick Ravon, it's a lap car sitting in front of him, opening the gap. It's now 0.7 of a second, and maybe saving fuel. It looks bad, and terrible timing. Coming around to 20 laps to go, or coming near 20 laps to go, not coming around too, but maybe a lap car shouldn't sit in front of the leader, but again, not all is lost by this happening.
I'm not. I may have to do a little disagreeing there. I don't know if he's saving fuel right now because we're only, 18 laps into this green flag run after the pit stops. I don't think he's quite needing to be in fuel saving mode. Andrew, maybe I'm wrong. You might know a little bit more about this than me.
I'm really curious as to what Rick is doing because on one hand, Emerson could be right. He could be saving a little bit of fuel, but at the same time, having to take these wide lanes around the corners and really race Scottless Rambler right now, I don't know how much he's actually able to save like this. It's really hard to say. Really, really hard to say. Hopefully it works out for the better for Rick Ravon, but he's actually to make the pass back on Rambler there as Rambler has to fall in behind the gearbox of our race leader, goes back 2 laps down, I do believe. Yep, back to 2 laps down. But regardless of the fuel situation, he is opening that lead back up as another car comes out in front of him. Let's see, that should be actually, I think that's Cuthbertson. No, that is a different car. I'm not sure who that is.
That is the 32 of Seth Streidel. My apologies there. Yeah, so how did negatively affect Rick Ravon was that he was, obviously attempting to overtake the 57 several times and then being in the dirty air, he has to wear out that right front tire more. So maybe, as I continue to allude to about the fuel saving part, this did definitely, negatively affect his right front tire.
Now Krug now 1.5 seconds back from Ravon. Ravon now may have the cushion he needs. He's got 2-lap cars between he and the second place running car of Krug. So, oh, look out! Contact there with the wobbly Rambler just tapped the wall there.
Yeah, he was just trying to follow that Ravon S. Just, wrong place.
I guess that's maybe a little bit of karma. I don't know why you'd be messing with the leaders there, so to kind of overshoot your swing back wide for the arc to catch the wall accidentally, maybe karma? We'll see. I mean, Rambler obviously proving that he was fast and should be racing for this win, but unfortunately, that's not the way racing goes sometimes. The connection issue on iRacing just kind of mirrors a parts failure in real life. So, unfortunately, things happen sometimes. Just ask Fernando Alonso about his Indy 500 dreams. So, it's the way it goes sometimes. I still don't quite agree with racing the leaders like that, but it seems like it's worked itself out for now. Rick Ravon clear of Scottless Rambler by 2 seconds, of Bobby Krug by 2 seconds, and those two starting to battle a little further back. Well, no, I shouldn't even say starting to battle. They're still running nose to tail, Krug and Chubb, and they have a gap of 5 seconds back to Stephen Ellis. So this top 3, I think, has worked itself pretty well out, and we got to wait and see how the guys are going to treat the fuel situation. We've already seen some pit stops. In fact, Warren Keith is on the pit lane, and I wonder what these other guys are going to try and do.
So this is Warren Keith. He knows he can't make it to the end, so he's splitting that last stint in half. We went green with about 36 to go, and he's coming to 19, so about halfway. Halfway is 18 laps. So definitely splitting this one in half, just trying to equal the tire life on both sides. Rick Ravon here, this is very interesting. The tires being worn out, they're battling. The lap car of Rambler, it's hard to say. I guess we really only have one thing is to wait and see. Kyle Riley he dropped down to running order, so off the pace, or he was running earlier for sure. That could be Riley saving fuel though, as we saw he definitely was doing good at it, going about 2 or 3 laps longer. But now he has to go about 4 or 5 laps.
Yeah, I've completely forgot to take into consideration about how hard that Ravon was running that lap car. That took a lot of wear and tear on the tires, and it took a lot of wear and tear on the fuel as well. So that
Krug is in.
Definitely Krug is in. Yeah, I was going to say Krug now heading to the pit area right now with 18 laps to go.
He's not the only one. It looks like Stephen Ellis. No, that's a different car. I think that's Carnero going to join him on the pit lane, and it is Carnero dropping down the running order. So he's going to come in. He is a lap down in 14th after that incident there with Cuthbertson a little while ago. But Bobby Krug makes his pit stop, which leaves Matt Chubb out for second place. And I'm really still curious as to what these guys are going to do with the fuel situation if they try and push the issue. That said, Matt Chubb having to deal with McClendon going around the bottom side. McClendon is another one of those lap cars. He's been racing lead lap cars all race long. So no surprise there. And Chubb going to come down the pit lane, so nobody, it looks like, is trying that one-stop possibility, or rather no-stop possibility. Rick Ray Vaughn still on the racetrack, though. You got to wonder what he's going to do, because those guys short pitting is going to open up the possibility for him losing this race if he doesn't, if he still makes his pit stop. So if he tries to run it out, we still have no clue how that's going to, cycle out. But if he does come in a couple of laps, he's losing time right now to Chubb and to Krug.
Yeah, definitely. I personally had a little heartbreak with seeing Kyle Riley drop down to running order as if he pitted. So that eliminates that from happening. Even Riley, who we thought was so good at extending the fuel. So if Riley doesn't think he can make it, I can't see how Ray Vaughn thinks he's going to, when the max he went was 31 laps, which was one stint. He ran 28 laps every other stint. So Ray Vaughn, I guess at this point, he's made his bet. He can no longer pit and still keep an advantage at this point, especially with Krug coming in. So he's made his bet to either, run the thing out and either pit if he can, or, try to save what he can to end out up front.
I don't know. If I'm Ray Vaughn right now, I'm trying to debate what to do. Being behind the microphone and not knowing much about, what happens in the cockpit. I'm going to go the rest of the way. That would be me. I'm going to go the rest of the way. I'm not going to pit, but that's just me.
It's very close to doing so. I'm always on the side of trying to stretch fuel. I like fuel mileage races. I like these fuel mileage battles. If you can't tell, me talking so passionately about trying to stretch it out and have this strategy battle. I love these strategy races. So if I was in Ray Vaughn's position, it's hard to say. You have pretty much the race wrapped up if you do pit. And I think if you're Ray Vaughn, you probably should have already pitted. But you've already made your bed, may as well lie in it. I say that, and he's going to come down the pit lane. So he just got up out of bed, and we'll see how this cycles him out, considering Krug is probably going to pass him, and he's going to have to race back by Matt Chubb and Bobby Krug to try and win this race. Stephen Ellis still on the racetrack. No, he's going to come in and pit. Spencer Madden then will be the next car coming around turn 4. We'll see if he pits this time, or if maybe Spencer Madden tries to go the whole way.
Yeah, it looks like he's staying out. Now remember, he was up in the top 5, so that means he was up in the lead draft after the restart. And now he was about 20 odd seconds behind, so definitely he could have been off the pace trying to save fuel. Rick Ray Vaughn, here he comes off the pit lane. Maybe he just took enough fuel to he changed the 4 tires and took enough fuel to maybe make his pit stop a little bit less. Have a shorter pit stop than Bobby Krug, who's coming off of turn 2 now. This is the race for the potential win here on the back straightaway at Indianapolis.
And he's catching him very quickly down the back straightaway as Ray Vaughn pulled out in front of him. He has got about 1 second behind right now of Ray Vaughn. As Ray Vaughn moves out of the turn, Krug right behind him. Madden, I guess Madden's going to be the wild card here. Do you think Madden's going to stay out the rest of the way?
I mean, you may as well, given the race he's had. And I'll eat some words on the Bobby Krug, Rick Ray Vaughn situation. Given how much time was spent in pit lane by some of these other drivers, I thought Krug was absolutely going to pass Rick Ray Vaughn, but he didn't. He didn't quite get on by that 5 car. The 5 had opened up enough of a lead, I suppose, to cushion whatever he lost. So it's under a second now. It must have been just enough then that he had opened up as far as a gap before those pit stops. But if you're Spencer Madden, I think you have to run it out. Even if you aren't good to the end, if you catch a yellow, you're suddenly in the race lead, and most everybody, I think, is going to follow you down the pit lane. We'll see. That's actually hard to guarantee, considering when you come down to it at the end of the race, you might be inclined to stay out and keep the track position for 1 or 2 laps, maybe bet on a yellow. But if we get a yellow flag, this could still be a win for Spencer Madden, at least in terms of bringing himself back into the race. We'll see how it works out. 11 laps, now 10.5 laps to go for the driver out of Ohio. And I mean, it's so hard to say. If he's saved any fuel at all, I think you've got to go for the no stop strategy from that last caution.
It's time to do that now. We're coming up to 10 laps to go, so this either goes or it doesn't. The theoretical race lead battle, which is currently second in the actual race, is closed down to under 0.3 of a second now. Ray Vaughn trying to duke it out with Krug. Ray Vaughn trying to defend against Krug. I'm looking at the stop times. I can't really tell if this has been updated correctly or not, but it says Bobby Krug had a 1 second pit stop to Rick Ray Vaughn's 8-second pit stop. So did Krug not take tires and maybe only take fuel? I'm not exactly sure.
No, sir. I can say, looking at HTVO's data, Bobby Krug at a 7.8 second stop as they battle off into turn 3 to Rick Ray Vaughn's 7.9 second pit stop.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be close here as Krug now to the inside of Ray Vaughn. Ray Vaughn on the outside. They are side by side for the second spot as they roll through the chute down the back straight, or down the front straightaway they go to cross the finish line. Ray Vaughn has that second spot now, but Krug's not going to give it up so easily. Krug now back to the inside. This is, in essence, could be the battle for the lead and the win here in the Indy 500 as they're still side by side, Andrew.
Whoa, a big bobble out of Krug. He's going to slap the fence. That's race over for Bobby Krug. That's it. There's no way, unless we get a caution and he uses a fast fix, he's done. That was some pretty hard contact to the wall and really damaged the right side of his machine, and that may have just been his Indianapolis 500 hopes out the window and in the fence. Unfortunately for Bobby Krug, he just slapped that wall really, really hard out of 2, and he's immediately pitting. He's got a lot of damage to that machine.
Yeah, this just becomes now, can Krug catch a yellow? That's really it. It's such a strong run. You see on the graphic, they started 30th and was in the race lead at one point. You hate to see it. I mean, you actually do. Spencer Madden now our race leader. He has 5.5 seconds on Rick Ray Vaughan. So if Madden's saving, he better pick up the pace because Rick Ray Vaughan only 5 seconds back. You know, this could definitely become interesting even if Madden can make it to the end.
Now, Madden, it looks like Madden's got a couple of lap cars. He can, kind of glide and catch the draft in front of him. That might help him out just a little bit. But now that gap between Madden and Ray Vaughn has now drawn under 5 seconds. 4.8 now, and it is shrinking lap by lap, corner by corner.
Imagine the storylines if Spencer Madden wins this race, at least within the league. Spencer Madden has just had such an up and down race, a roller coaster. Started on the outside of the front row, started 3rd place, sharing the front row with Scott Liss Rambler and his teammate, Cole Freilich. Ends up getting caught up in an incident with never mind. He's pitting. That's it. I think he was waiting for a caution, and he didn't get one. He's got to come down the pit lane. I think that's race about over, at least for the win, but we're still going to watch these battles finish out for the rest of the field. Spencer Madden down the pit lane, and that's him conceding his possibility, I think, at winning this race.
Yeah, that is, unless, a yellow comes out, that is it. Ray Vaughn has a nearly 7-second advantage over Matt Chubb. Great point save for Chubb. Even if a caution does come out, they're going to have to get the caution period done quickly. Unless Ray Vaughn makes a mistake, this looks like it's about wrapped up. He's just got to keep those tires planted, not even get close to that outside wall. No need to just run this race, I would say, even at half throttle. Okay, no, not half throttle, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Ray Vaughn's pretty much, he's got 5 laps to go, 7-second lead right now over Chubb. Ray Vaughn's pretty much got this race gift wrapped right now to him. The only thing that's going to stop him is if the ground opens up and swallows him whole, and I don't think that's going to happen, not even on iRacing.
No, absolutely not. That said, we have a possible battle for 5th shaping up. A couple of drivers we talked to at the start of the show before the green flag even dropped. Seth Stridle and Franklin Ash, both kart racers out of the Midwest, and right now they're about to go at it. They're about to be side by side. There they go, off into turn 3. Franklin Ash rounding the top side. He immediately gets on by Seth Stridle, but Stridle's not giving up. He's still at the bottom, and, well, no, he is giving up, I think. There's a mismatch in tire degradation there. Ash on 11-lap old tires, Stridle on 19-lap old tires, and immediately Ash just went on by. That's for 5th place in the Indianapolis 500 here for the International Online Racing League, and that means a whole lot to Franklin Ash as a driver, even though it's only 5th place. You're moving up in the Indy 500, and you are about to wrap up a top 5. Ahead of him, I should mention Trey Shuttlesworth. I haven't said that name a whole lot. I've tried to recently as I've noticed him suddenly in the running. This guy started well back in the field, started 18th. Not quite as far back as Krug and Chubb, but still quite a ways back, and did a great job of just working through the field, missing a couple of wrecks. Suddenly now 4th place, the Pennsylvania driver.
Right, a 4th place that is in what has been a wild race. At one point, I believe Shuttlesworth was the one of the first 2 cars 1 lap down in our long
Yep.
like 100 lap stint. So he came from a lap down as in the battle now. In a race we thought that it was only going to be those 7 or 8 drivers who even had a remotely small chance. Now it's pretty much wrapped up for the win, but the running order shaken up with that caution.
Yeah, Rayvon is putting a lot more gap between he and the second place running Chubb machine. It is now 9 seconds between first and second. Rayvon on cruise control as we are going to see the white flag coming out next time by as they come across. Man, what a run by Rayvon. He has just been one of the most quick cars of the race. He and Rambler, who, man, we got a feel for Rambler who had that issue with the connection earlier.
Absolutely. So out of turn for the race that has eluded Rick Rayvon for so long has been the Indianapolis 500, no matter who has put it on, be it IORL, SRCA, iRacing, no matter what league it's been, Indianapolis has eluded this guy, especially the Indianapolis 500. He attempted it multiple times over the last couple of weeks on iRacing in the official races, and Rick Rayvon just couldn't quite get it done. Now he's a half a lap away from finally capping off an amazing day. Rick Rayvon didn't start up front. He didn't start on pole. Well, I shouldn't say up front. He didn't start on pole where we usually see him in the SRCA. He started 5th, and he said at the top of the show he didn't care about getting up to the front. He didn't care about leading this race, but he did exactly that from the start of the show. Out of turn number 4, Rick Rayvon is finally going to do it. Rick Rayvon wins the Indianapolis 500.
Wow, what a race from Rayvon, one of the most dominant cars all day long, and he is in victory lane, and it's where he should be, as good as he has ran. Chubb finishes second. Ellis coming home on the podium in the 3rd spot, so a good run from them. Chubb started 29th on the grid. Ellis started 8th, so they're going to find themselves on the podium. Shuttlesworth and Ash from all the way back in 31st place going to round out the top 5. What a race.
Stridle even was a lap down. At one point, he'll come home 6th. Newsel comes home 7th. Madden 8th. Riley and Krug, the last of the cars on the lead lap, and 10th. After having the race lead with about 30 laps remaining.
So Rick Rayvon exits turn 4. Now the race is over. He's done it, and he's going to burn him down. He always does, and I can't wait to talk to him because this guy is always so energetic after SRCA races, no matter where he finishes. I talked about it earlier. You know, he'd be content, I think, with finishing 2nd place to somebody like Scottless Rambler. No, he definitely won this thing. He earned this thing. I think even if those two had raced straight up, Rick Rayvon was just the best all day long. And for a while there, it looked like the strategy might not have gone his way. But with a couple of cautions, with a couple of mishaps from some other drivers, this guy has done it. He has won Indianapolis. He has won the Indianapolis 500. And this is a really, really big day for him. I know he takes this stuff really seriously. He's gotten his wife into the interviews afterwards, cheering him on. He takes this thing super seriously. He's always giving it his all. And this Rick Mears fan has done it, finally conquered the Indianapolis 500 today. I know he's got to be ecstatic inside that race car.
Right, he is. He definitely is. He just took another cool down lap as the emotions are probably just running so high right now and well deserved. Again, we've seen him dominate on the SRCA side of things. As you alluded to, this race is not one that has been left unchecked for quite a while. But overcoming all of that, maybe some help with some cautions, but nonetheless, well deserved here today. Let's see if he'll burn them down this time by the yard of bricks. Oh no! Here comes the podium.
So we'll go ahead. We'll take a break. We'll be right back with top 3 interviews from these drivers. Again, just an amazing win for Rick Rayvon, and we'll let you see at least as they line things up for the podium here, and we'll be right back to you with post-race interviews from your top 3 finishers.
got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're gonna lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage. Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane. Press and hold your reset button and we'll come and get you.
Welcome back now to post-race coverage of the IORL Indianapolis 500. We've got the top three to talk to, the podium finishers, and we're going to kick that off with Rick Rayvon. Rick, do you have a copy?
I got a copy.
Rick, we're so used to talking to you after IndyCar races, but not in the IORL. Usually after an SRCA win, you back that up with another win tonight. It's the Indianapolis 500. Man, how does that feel?
It feels incredible. I don't even know what to say. I mean, this is my first race with this great series, and I didn't know anybody except for Rambler, Cole Freilich, and John Poole, but Poole couldn't make it. I think he was spotting for Rambler, but Rambler had his bad luck there, and that was good luck for me. We ran an Indy 500 on Wednesday night, and I was doing really well. I was up there fighting for the lead, and me and John Poole actually got together in turn 2, and it sent me into the wall, but so I was kind of robbed there. A lot of bad luck, but good luck here today. I just can't believe it. I'm going to drink the milk right now on camera because I got a live feed going on Facebook. So here we go, baby. Oh. Should I pour it on my head? No, I'm not going to do it. No. I'm not going to do that. I'm so excited, baby. Thank you, Zach Buchanan, for this great league. And for all the drivers that said, okay, they're letting the leaders by. They said, go by me, Rick. I'll stay high and all of that stuff. Because I don't normally do a lot of communicating out there. So I don't key up and say thank you. I just want to say a big blanket thank you to all those guys. Everybody raced smooth. They all raced clean. They raced like gentlemen. I love this league.
I don't know if we needed all of those accentuated sounds, but the emotion definitely and just the excitement after winning the Indianapolis 500, and it means a lot in this league, the International Online Racing League. These guys take this stuff really seriously. You take this stuff really seriously, so to come away with the win, I can only imagine how good it feels, and I don't even know how to put it in words for you. Are we gonna get an appearance from the wife though in this interview?
I'm gonna see. Should I call her down? Hold on. Hey Siri, tell mommy to come down here. Ready for this?
Your message to Mila says tell mommy to come down here.
Yeah. Okay. Send it.
Ready
Come on.
to send it?
Yeah. Hurry up.
Okay.
She'll be down here in a minute.
Well, in the meantime, I wanted to ask you about that battle in those last 30 laps or so with Scottless Rambler. How did you see that from your point of view, considering he was lapped?
Well, I knew before the race, when I knew that Rambler was in it, I figured he was going to be my toughest competition. Him, John Poole, and Freilich. I raced with those guys. The other guys I don't know. So, in my mind, I think Rambler was probably the best of the best. And I knew that it was going to be a real tough fight. And you know what? Rambler had the bad luck there, and I'm just so happy. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mrs. Rayvon. Did you watch that, baby? Did you see that?
No, I was outside, but because I was watching the race, and then Liz came over, and she's our guest.
Yeah.
So,
Mwah.
oh my God, honey, you deserve it.
Thank you, honey. Here, take a sip of this milk. It's nice and cold. Mrs. Ravon sips the milk.
Woo, victory milk.
Victory milk, baby.
I'm so happy for you, honey.
Thank you, honey. Mwah. I love you so much.
You deserve it after that debacle and chaos with
Yeah, I know. The other league. We
others.
won't name that league, but the psycho leader. All right. I love you, baby. Isn't it great to have that kind of support?
That it definitely is. And it's awesome always to talk to you, especially when Miss Ravon comes on down and gives her feedback. But back to the conversation about the 57 of Rambler and racing with him. We were talking about how much that was probably impacting you and talking about the possibility of being ever so close on fuel. Did you think that maybe you guys could go to the end, or was it always going to be a one-stop from that last caution?
Well, we had that long green flag period there, and I short-filled a couple of times, and that cost me because Rambler was able to duck in and come out and have the fresher tires, and he just ran me down and just blew me away. So I figured, all right, now I just have to hope for yellow and just kind of, chill out back here and stay in second and keep him in sight. But thank God we got the yellow. But like I said, if he didn't disconnect, it was going to be a good, hard fight to the end because that boy is aggressive as hell.
Well, in the end, it all works out. Tell us about that run to the end, the very last few laps where you were battling with Krug there, and he ends up just slapping the wall out of turn 2. What were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
I was thinking, yippee, baby, he's in the wall, yeah! No, seriously though, I was relieved to see him hit the wall because he was putting up a real good fight there, and when he hit the wall, it was a relief. But I felt bad for the guy, even though I don't know him. But still, that must have been pretty hard on the guy, But when I saw him blow the corner and head up, I just went down to the inside, and thank God I missed him. He could have come off the wall and then bounced off the wall and hit me. And I was like, oh no, not another way to lose an Indy 500. Come on, give me a break. But it worked out for me. Like I said, I had bad luck on Wednesday, and I had good luck today. I just want to thank Zach Buchanan. This kid is such a class act, man, and he runs this league like a professionally. A sharp contrast from the other league I used to run in, and I'm just so grateful to be here, and I can't wait to get to know the rest of these fellas.
Zach Buchanan definitely puts on a great product, and usually racing on Wednesday nights, but here tonight on a Sunday afternoon, and certainly fitting, I think, right where the Indianapolis 500 always should be, the Sunday afternoon before Memorial Day. But as you wrap this thing up, before we let you go, who do you have to thank, and who makes it happen for you?
Well, I mean, Zach Buchanan's the man. He's the one that, I guess put the league together. I know that Poole helped him and a couple others, but he runs the show, and he runs it, like I said before, professionally, and I'm grateful for that. I want to thank you guys up in the booth, of course, because you guys always do a great job on Pit Stop TV. I've watched your broadcast before. I've raced on your broadcasts, and, you guys do a fantastic job covering the race, so I can't wait to see this on replay. I just want to thank all the drivers out there, everybody who was running up there with the lead pack and racing hard but racing clean, and those guys that were going a lap down, they were all gentlemen. I can't thank them enough. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank the Lord Jesus. I know that, he doesn't give people wins or losses, but I think he gave me I just prayed for a good, clean, safe race. I wanted to make it to the end. He let me get to the end. I just had a lot of good luck today. It's just so awesome to be here. And thank everybody. Thanks to the people who tuned in, who watched the broadcast, and thanks to the people who are watching my Facebook live stream. All you guys are awesome. I love each and every one of you. God bless you.
And that's Rick Ray Vaughn, now an Indianapolis 500 winner. Thanks for your time, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you a lot more Thursdays to come.
Well, you most definitely will. Wednesdays, I think they race, but whenever the IORL races, believe me, I'm going to do the best I can to make every one of these races.
And so that was Rick Ray Vaughn, and I don't know how to follow that one up, but what I will say is we do have a second place finisher in the wings and waiting to talk to. It's Matt Chubb. Emerson, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Race Rick.
Yeah, oh joy, I don't know how I can follow up that interview, but we are interviewing our second place finisher today. Wow, I cannot get that through my head, can I? Our second place finisher today, driver of the number 42, Matt Chubb. Your points leader entering this event, and I assume this second place finish will help you keep that. How do you think you did today?
Well, from the very beginning, I was just wanted to get caught up in any wrecks. Didn't want to hit the wall at all. Had a few scrapes of the wall, but kept it clean and took care of the tires. And I was just able to get past people just one by one.
All right. Overall today, what can you say about today's race in terms of racing each other? It looked like it was very gentlemanlike out there. It's also Rick alluded to as well in his interview. What is just your take racing your fellow competitors today and just the conditions out on the track?
Yeah, it was great. I think it went better than expected. I thought we'd have maybe a few more cautions, just from people not giving and taking as much as I think we should at this track. So, yeah, everyone was a gentleman. Everyone that I was racing against was real giving. So, it was a good day.
All right, so let's go transition to the end of this race here. We saw you poke your head up higher up in the running order at points throughout the race, but then it really got serious here on that final restart. What could you have done differently on that entire final stint that was about 36 laps? Could you have done anything differently to maybe top Rick Ravon today?
Well, with the second to last option, I chose not to pit. I didn't know what they were going to do in front of me because I knew we were still going to have to pit one more time. So I started that last restart first, and I knew they were on fresher tires, and I knew Rick was going to get past me. I was able to stick with him and Bobby for a little bit, and then I tried to. I was going to short pit Rick. I know I didn't know what Bobby's strategy was, so Bobby went actually earlier than I was expecting him to, so I ducked in the lap after him, and it just kept me up front. And then kind of after that, I was kind of just in no man's land by myself, and I was just I was hoping that Bobby and Rick might get together, but those guys are good racers, so not really quite sure what happened to Bobby. I was kind of expecting P3, but we'll take P2.
Were you expecting the P3 because of Bobby, or was it did you think you were gonna get caught by Ellis behind you?
No, I was just expecting the P3 because I was like, after that last pit stop, I was 5 seconds behind Bobby, and then Ellis was about 6 seconds behind me. So with 12 laps to go, I think it was, I just knew I was going to make up 6 seconds unless they got together.
Right. So, as I alluded to at the very beginning of the interview, you entered this race as their points leader. So, another great run in the grand scheme of things for the season. How does this second place finish kind of set you up for the rest of the season to come?
Exactly what I needed for the rest of the season. At pretty much every race, I just try to not get caught up in any trouble. Haven't had to use a fast repair yet, so really just trying to keep it clean and just get these consistent top fives. And yeah, can't wait for the rest of the season.
Right on, right on. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out for your second place finish today?
Yeah, I want to thank Lincoln Welders, all the competitors in IORL. It was a great race today. Thanks for racing clean. Thanks to Zach Buchanan for putting on the league. I know it probably takes quite a bit of time to do that. So it's a great league, having a blast, and hope to keep having success throughout the rest of the season.
Right on. Well, congratulations on your second place finish, and good luck to you the rest of the season.
And thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast. Awesome.
All right, thanks a lot, Andrew. Appreciate it. And Stephen Ellis, our third place finisher tonight. A good, consistent run for you. You know, you started 8th, ended up 3rd. Just take us through your race.
Yeah, I had a great strategy guy, and Eric Baudouin, who he was kind of the one calling the shots there. It was all about just saving fuel, saving tires. Don't put yourself in a bad position. And then it was kind of like, let's have an aggressive last strategy call there. And man, another lap or two, I was gonna catch up for second place. That part sucks, but you know, it's I don't race Indy cars often. This is like my second time in this series, and last time was the 500. So it was, I'm happy with the run. That was more of a strategy run than kind of any of the ways I've taken on previous 500s, where it was just go fast. This one was, let's make sure that we've got the best tires possible for the last run. And I think it worked out well, because I was 7th or 8th, I think, before that final run, and it worked out because I had good tires for a longer period of time near the end. So kept it out of the wall, and otherwise clean car.
So you mentioned you had a good strategy guy. What was your strategy at the beginning of the race? Were you just take us through your strategy at the beginning, and then at the end when everybody was starting to pit there with about 15 to go.
Well, the one thing I think I learned when I did the iRacing Open and the fixed races was just kind of like I tried to stretch everything as long as possible, but then I was losing too much time. And I think at the beginning it was worth stretching the runs as long as possible. And I was working with Scott Rambler that whole time, and we were kind of almost mirroring our runs. And we were two of the cars that were staying out longer than a lot of the other people because I was just not pushing it. Anytime someone came within 2-3 tenths, I was just letting them go. I was making sure that I can last an extra lap or two, and that worked. But then it was near the end, we just cut our runs in half. So I probably had 7 or 8 laps, I would say, left. I could have gone on my second last run, but we cut that early, and just so that way our tires were good, we'd be in clean air, and I could focus on making sure that I could run as fast as possible at the end. Because the one thing we learned with this setup and this just the last few weeks in Indianapolis is when you're behind someone, you're not turning very well. So you want to be in clean air, but you also don't want to be in a part where you're burning up too much fuel. So it was kind of nice to be behind someone that was a second ahead, and then just ride it out there. It was kind of just let's not have a stressful event. Let's just go out there, be smooth, calm, and then all the power at the end. And again, I knew I wasn't going to win this race. A top 5 was kind of like that'd be a great finish. So third, I'll take it. And again, another lap or two, who knows? I may have been able to take second in there.
Who you got to give thanks to? I know you got a lot of people to help make it happen for you.
I want to thank my parents for thinking it was a good idea for me to spend so much time racing the last few weeks. Eric Beaudoin, the guy who was my spotter, strategy guy. We're doing the Coke 600 tonight, so it's gonna be a busy day. Alex Gallagher, Caitlin Patrick, Jordan Buster has been very helpful for the last couple of weeks. We spent so much time playing the 500, and my sponsors, Can Race, Bryce Turner, Race Canada, and WeatherTech.
All right, congratulations on your 3rd place finish, and that is Stephen Ellis. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
A solid run there for Stephen Ellis. And again, as I said earlier before the race, great to hear from drivers and hear their points of view on things. And definitely like to catch up with these guys about their experiences in today's race. But that, man, I still can't believe what a race we had. And even when it looked like, and Rick Ravon obviously had it wrapped up, still a really good show, really entertaining. And there was always something around the corner to change things up.
I mean, I got to give the heartbreak of the race. I got to give it to Scott Rambler. He was one of the cars to beat as well. And then you have a disconnection issue. That's my heartbreak of the race right there. I think if that didn't happen, we might have had a different outcome.
All right, Scott Rambler, a class of the field. We thought it was him, really until his incident, and then the cautions, and then his incident. Just wild to see him go like that. But at the end of the day, it is racing. It happens. I thought Kyle Riley might have had a big impact with or without the caution, and we saw him pit during that final stint. Not might necessarily heartbreak of the race, but heartbreak to maybe a different outcome to the race. Maybe having some fuel strategy there at the end, but nonetheless, Rick Ravon definitely very deserving of that. Everybody came down for one final pit stop on that final stint. It was fun to the end.
Absolutely. So before we let you guys go, we do of course want to roll down the unofficial race results rather. Rick Ravon, of course, coming home with a 10-second lead when it's all said and done after 500 miles, 10.318 seconds the gap over Matt Chubb, who finished in 2nd place. We also talked to Stephen Ellis as he finished 3rd. Trey Shuttlesworth comes home 4th, and it's Franklin Ash, Seth Stridle, Joey Newsel, Spencer Madden, Kyle Riley, and Bobby Krug, your top 10.
Following them, P11, we have Warren Keefe, the first driver, 1 lap down, followed by Bruno Canero, Zach Buchanan. Scott Lisramer ended up finishing P14. He was 2 laps down. He was racing his heart out there with Rick Ravon with about 20 to go, just trying to keep his race on the line. That did not come to fruition. P15, we have Chris Progar, P16 Andrew Meebach, P17 Doug D-Nice, P18 Roswell Harlow, P19 Troy Patton, and P20 Scott McClellan.
In the 21st position, it's got Kyle Cuthbertson, 41 laps down. Corey Rexford finishes 22nd. 23rd goes to Scott Bellum. Jeffrey McClintock in the 24th spot. 25th goes to Blake Erickson. 26th, your pole sitter, and had a tough day today, as Cole Freilich. Evan Stamer runs into that 27th spot. Andrew Cootie, who had a little bit of an issue starting the race today, he ended up 28th. Timothy Trowbridge runs 29th, and Nick Gunther rounds out the 30th position.
Your back three today, Adam Samsel only made it about 29 laps, finishes 171 laps down. Thomas Gold, we saw him go flipping in turn 3 under our first caution. He called it quits after that, ends up 186 laps down, with Trevor Eggemeyer never taking the green flag and winding up 33rd today in the number 8. And that's your field. That is your field today from Indianapolis in the International Online Racing League. What a show it was. Definitely appreciate the IORL for having us on board today. And that'll conclude our coverage today of the IORL Indianapolis 500 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Pit Stop TV, thanks you for tuning in and joining us for today's action, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. Join us again Tuesday when the Lucky Dog Sim Racing League takes on the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and Thursday when the SRCA Pro F2000 Series visits Iowa Speedway for a couple of races. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and on YouTube by searching Pit Stop TV. Don't forget, you can also visit the new website of our parent sponsor, Whiplash Media, who specializes in various sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, and more. Whiplash Media is also working on its presence, in real racing, with things such as photography, social media management, and public relations. You can go to whiplash-media.com to find out more. This has been Emerson Ardon and Chris Nunn with me on the call. Today, I'm Major Cardinale IV for Pit Stop TV, and we will see you next time.